So when you're
Um,
talking about the city of Atlantis, which is now obviously underwater, how far back are we theoretically talking?
well, geologically speaking, this is the thing that's just so incredibly accurate with Plato's text.
Hmm.
He tells you, he tells the priest of Sais tell Solon that this empire was destroyed by a cataclysmic event
Mhm.
that dated back 9,000 years.
I want to get back to the caravan chat. So you would when were you driving all around
Yeah.
Europe in a caravan, or are you still doing that?
Well, it was a very interesting story how that happened. I'd started working with our team out here in Spain
Yeah.
um, like 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was living in Italy and looking after my father at the same time because he was old and he'd had a stroke
All right.
shortly after the same month my mom passed away. It was pretty traumatic.
Right.
And he was pushing 90 years old. And so I ended up deciding, look, I'm going to look after dad and I'm going to take a pause from Los Angeles. I'm going to go to Italy.
Sure.
So during the course of the first 6, 7, 8 months, as he was improving,
Hmm.
and he had a nurse and whatnot, I was getting a little fidgety. And I met our team. I met them, and we started adventuring and going off and diving at shipwrecks in the North Sea and going to Egypt and whatnot.
Yeah.
And things were getting really interesting. And within a year working with them, and I'm still in Italy looking after dad. He was getting better and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, better. He had dementia and he was getting older. But um, they said to me, "Hey, do you like southern Spain? Who doesn't like Andalusia?"
Mm.
Excuse me. Still recovering from this flu. And I start flying out here maybe once a month for a week or once every 6 weeks for 10 days.
Right.
And I fell in love with this place. Like totally fell in love with this
Mm.
place.
Mm.
You've been here.
I
You
no, I haven't. I've got a friend who's there, but I've been meaning to visit. He comes back to London all the time, but no, I've never
it's
been
it's
down.
really and truly one of the most amazing places, certainly that I've ever lived.
Mm. Mm.
At the and every time I would go back, fly back to Italy, I would show my father on the big screen in the living room these videos that I was filming in Andalusia.
Mm.
Plus the excitement I would share with him of what we were finding and how exciting it was. And I would see his eyes light up. And I love Italy. I consider myself, even though I'm American, I spent just as many years living in Italy as I did in California.
Right.
So I grew up there. Italian's my first language.
Mm.
To some degree, I consider myself half Italian.
Mm. Mm.
Um, but I am very sensitive to the weather. And Modena, which is an absolute jewel of a
Hmm.
town, wonderful people, some of the best food in the world,
Right.
is miserably cold in the winter.
There.
and um, and I really had set it in my head. I wanted to move here,
Hmm.
but the thought was, how am I going to move? Not in Luthi. I've got my dad. He's 90 years old. He's got recovering from a stroke. He's got a bit of dementia going on. I got my cat. I've got this house full of stuff. And I was there, one day I see my dad looking out the window, and it was sort of like the third consecutive month of horrible weather.
Right.
And he's looking out the window, looking really sad. And I said, "Dad, what's going on?" And he kind of just shrugged his shoulders. And I looked at him and I said, in that moment, I said, "Dad, you want to move to Andalusia?" And he turned around, looked at me, said, "Yeah." And in 6 weeks, we were here. The whole question
Wow.
was, how the heck was I going to do it?
Mm. Mm.
Because I'm thinking, man, this isn't, I got to really think this through. Like I've got, if I rent a minivan, no, the
Mm.
car, I mean, I got to drive him there. Then what? I leave him there on his
Mm.
own while
Mm.
no, no. And then I go, ooh, caravan, right? Because I can pack it full of stuff.
Okay, here we go.
Eh,
We're getting back around to the caravan.
The caravan,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so it all fell into place. And I got a hold of this old caravan through a friend of mine, and they hadn't used it in years. Fixed it all up, took it to mechanic, got it up to spec, and spent 3 days driving out to Andalusia.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. And it was like the night we left, it started snowing and raining.
Mm.
And we were on the road for 3 days, like in this torment. And the second we crossed into the border of Andalusia,
Mm.
it was as if the sky, the clouds opened up, and you could hear the angels sing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd set up the caravan was huge, and I had set up this central bed
Right.
for my dad to be very cozy. And
Mm. Mm.
so there's my dad and my cat, my wonderful little hairless Sphinx, Smeagol, and they're both sort of perched, peeking out the window, looking at this beautiful scenery.
Mm.
And that's how I got the caravan.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So you
So,
how long were you in Andalusia before then?
so I spent, okay, so the first trip that I took to Andalusia was in the 2015, but the first trip I took here in for regarding the Atlantica project
Mm. Mm.
was the 3rd of February 2016. So right coming up 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 3 days is going to be 10 years.
Right.
And so between 2016 and 2018, I was coming out here pretty regularly.
Mm.
In 2018 to 2019, I took a year off the project.
Mm.
Timothy Akers, my mentor, great friend, and head of research at Merlin Burroughs, who are my partners with the scanning technologies. He came down with cancer and broke his leg, and so we just took a year off.
Mm.
And during that year, I was going stir crazy.
Mm.
I was working on other projects in Egypt and stuff like that, but that move with my father was not till 2019, also
Right.
February.
Right.
So so it was 3 years. We moved here 3 years after my initial trip out here.
Mm. Mm.
So
So
it's
okay.
been,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, let's backtrack a little bit for people who don't know your work. How did you get involved with all this in the first place? Why did you start going around trying to find ancient sites? Because that's not the I've never met anyone who does that. What was the
It's
interest?
it's amazing how it happened. A lot of incredible things went on to allow that mechanism to fall into place. I never would have imagined it. I didn't wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm going to go out and find
Yeah,
Atlantis."
of course.
No, I'm a pretty down to earth guy.
Yeah.
Um, I did study archaeology at the American College of Greece in Athens.
Mm.
That was my major, and truth be told, I never really thought that I would become an archaeologist.
Was it a course that you did? Is it like what English lit is the one that people do nowadays when they don't know what they want to do? Was it that sort of a thing, or did you have an idea? Did you want
Well,
to be a professor or
no, no. You're living in Greece.
yeah,
Greeks like to. There's two things: you party,
yeah.
you eat well, and there's archaeology. So there were three things. So
I think I
um,
study one of those things.
yeah, it just made sense. And my sister was studying there with me as well. So we both were studying archaeology, and it was wonderful and it was incredible. I had the opportunity to go and work on projects at Mycenaean, Minoan sites in
Mm.
Santorini, Akrotiri. So it really opened my eyes for the first time to professional academic archaeology.
Sure.
Um, and later on, I ended up moving to California, and where I finished university in a different field,
Hmm.
and actually architecture,
Right.
which I
I
absolutely
imagine that helps a little bit with.
it was really kind of interesting, yeah, because I never it's all kind of fits into place. And within I think 3 years, I got a job at 20th Century Fox. So by 2002,
Mhm.
2001, 2001, I was 2000. I was already working at 20th Century Fox. I worked there for like 5 years. Then I worked with a studio called Mod Studios with Disney
Oh, right. What were
for
you
a
doing
few
there?
years. I was a visual effects supervisor.
Right.
So at that point, so at Fox, I kind of worked my way up. I started as a graphic designer. In my mind, sorry, just to give you a little bit of
Please.
backstory, the one thing I always loved is art and sculpture.
Mm.
So I've always been an illustrator. Um, I always sculpted. I was always involved in a sculpture studio
Mm.
where I attended years and years and years. I would always go any minute that I had some free time. I would go and make bronze casts. It was actually a
Wow.
wonderful experience in Mission Viejo, California, and great studio, absolutely wonderful people. And it was my little time. I'd put my headphones on and I would sculpt. So my work as an artist was sort of an extension of what I'd been doing for so many years before that, is the
Mhm.
drawing. And so when I started at 20th Century Fox, I pretty quickly went um, from 2D to animation to 3D, because in my mind, you know, however, 400 years ago, 500, Michelangelo, during the Renaissance, for example,
Mm.
sculpture was the art of the moment. But in my mind, in today's world, at the time anyway, visual effects represented in my mind today's pinnacle
Mm. Mm.
of art.
It's probably good that
So
you got out of that before everything that's happening now with AI and now it's all
totally,
going away. Yeah.
completely.
Mm.
In fact, I was talking to a good friend of mine who I've worked on several movies with, and he's a very, very well-known visual effects supervisor.
Mm.
Worked on The Hobbit. He worked on
Oh, wow.
Lord of the Rings. He's worked on Star Trek. I worked on a bunch of movies with him. And he hasn't worked in visual effects now for a few years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's
Disney
completely
did that deal
changed.
the other day. It was like maybe a month ago where they said they're going to start working with was it ChatGPT or OpenAI or whatever it was? I
Yeah,
can't remember. It was like a 5 million, $1 billion deal, and I was like,
that's
right, that's
crazy.
the end. It's going to be the thing where
That's
like,
crazy.
because I was saying like, whenever you watch a film, like a Disney film, like an animation,
Yeah,
you've got credits that just go, and you've got like the
yeah,
hair team and the
yeah.
grass team, and like so many people for one thing, and now the
It's
credits are going to roll,
crazy.
and it's just going to say OpenAI.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's I heard like for certain things, it makes so much sense. I heard extras, for example.
Right. Yes. Yeah. My partner
You
did
know,
that. Yeah. She was. Well, that
if
was
you
years ago. That was even before like the rise of AI. Now she was an extra. I keep forgetting. I was telling this story yesterday. I can't remember the name of the film. It was Chris Pine, and it was a film about I believe King James and sort of like that era of like Scottish and English like
Oh, I remember
war.
that movie. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was
I can't remember what it
uh,
was, but
what was it called? The King, not the King. It was called yeah, yeah, it came out maybe
it,
like
I keep thinking the Last King of Scotland, but I know that's the James McAvoy one, so I forget which one it is. But it was
I like
you know
James
the
McAvoy a
Outlaw
lot. He's
King. It
cool.
was the Outlaw King.
The Outlaw King. Yeah, it came
Yes.
out maybe like I want to say 5 years ago, maybe seven
Maybe
years ago.
something like that. But yeah, she was an extra in that, and at one point they turned around and they were like, "Oh, can we does anyone want to be scanned? It'll be fun." And they were like, "Oh yeah, it'll be fun." So
Yeah,
they went
yeah.
into a big room with a bunch of cameras and then got 3D scanned.
Yeah,
And so
sure, sure,
basically, what they
sure.
could do is they could plot 3D recreations of the extras in other scenes. So every mob scene is the same people just swapped around in a different order, and so you get paid less as an extra because you're not actually
Yeah,
turning up on set for
yeah.
days. You're just getting paid less for the AI recreation. And that was years ago.
And they get to reuse your image for the rest of eternity.
Who knows what films you're going to be in? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of the things I did for a long time was really revolutionary at the time, was motion capture.
All right. Yeah.
So in our studio, we had these big rigs
Mm.
and have a motion capture set up with X amount of cameras. I think we had 24 cameras or something like that, or 30 something. I can't remember. And you have an actor or a stuntman dress up in this outfit with the
The
little
ping pong
balls on it.
balls.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ping pong balls. And like you said, it's just all that was so much work.
Mm.
People don't understand the it's really doing visual effects,
Mm,
especially when you're talking about mixing not only the level of artistry that you have, but then there's the element of the physics.
mm,
So, for example, if you have to do a scene where a meteorite crashes into New York City,
mhm.
you have to program the physics so that the viewer, the average viewer, is convinced by that scene.
Yeah.
It's so complicated to do.
Mm,
And now with AI, it's like I
mm.
find it to go back to I'm working and doing all this stuff, and I was getting a little bit I guess not bored, but LA's a funny place, man.
It's never been my favorite. I've been a
It's
couple of times, and it's just not
nobody's
the.
favorite.
San Francisco is my favorite place in the US. I
That's
love.
where my father was from. That's where I
Oh
went to
wow.
university. I went
Oh great.
right across in Berkeley.
Right.
Um, but yeah, LA. It's funny because you tell people ask you, "Hey, what are you from, man?" And I go, I'm from Los Angeles, California." Oh, Los Angeles! Wow, magnificent! And you're like, not really.
Mm, mm,
I don't mean to crap on my own. There are there are parts of Southern California which are really stunning, but
mm.
I just started to get um I got to a point where I started to become a little disillusioned with I didn't like living there anymore.
Mhm.
And I certainly didn't like a lot. I've worked with wonderful people,
Mm,
absolutely, no question about it, um, for which I'm grateful. And I've also worked with a bunch of dickwads
mm.
who have absolutely no business being near a film industry.
Sure. Find it
And
in every industry.
it's bizarre, isn't it? How
Mm,
so many industries so often, ironically or strangely or maybe purposely, seem to attract the very least likely candidates or apt candidates for the job.
yeah.
Happens in politics, it happens in film,
Happens in
it happen
acting.
it happens sometimes in law enforcement, acting,
Yeah.
and it certainly happens in film. Um, and uh, especially when it comes to like post-production, visual effects, some of the best people I know,
Mm,
they tend to be somewhat introvert. You sit there, you have your headphones on,
of
you're
course.
listening to music, and you're
Yeah.
getting in the zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're creating magic.
Mm,
And they often are not respected in the way that they should have been respected by oftentimes some bozo
mm,
who got a job as a producer,
mm.
knowing can't even hold a camera,
Yeah.
but his uncle or her uncle was so and so, and so this person is now a director. Oh, no, well, director. It's not to say I haven't met some good ones, but the how I got into this, to get back to your question, is I think well, it was a couple different things. Um, I was already mentally in the state where I was over California, and I also had gotten to a point where I really thought um, I'd mastered my skills.
Hmm.
Both film, I had my own production company on the side as well, where you did commercials and stuff like that. Um, and you get to a point where you realize, hey, dude, I don't need to be making movies for other people. I
Yeah.
can make my own movies.
Yeah.
Right around 2014, 15, I get a call from my parents who were living in Italy,
Hmm.
and they told me my mom was sick.
Right.
And then they called me the next day, and they're like, "Mom's really sick. You got to get out here right now." I took the
Mm,
flight the same day, and I took the flight the same day, arrived, walk into the hospital. She's in a coma. I see her with tubes in her face, and I fucking collapse to the floor, dude.
mm, mm.
And I hold her hand for two hours, and she dies. And my father had a stroke the same month.
Right.
So I'm like, oh boy, all right, okay, all right, pause. I'm going to take 6 months off. The idea of sending my dad to some old folks home in where in California, they hadn't lived in America for 45 years, and my
Mm,
father was my best friend.
yeah.
So that idea was absolutely not going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, so I go back to California, close up shop, got rid of my car, put everything in storage, and I go back to Italy. And during that time before the camper, and within those 6 months, I had always remained throughout the years, remained heavily involved in for fun
Hmm.
in archaeological stuff on the side. So I
Like what?
would be
Yeah.
like just in communication with groups and online friends and colleagues that were doing making discoveries and
Mm,
watching shows. And
mm,
at the same time, I was enjoying documentaries more than movies.
hmm.
I was realizing God, documentaries are really fascinating because you could watch a documentary about anything.
Yeah.
Haircuts for dogs, cooking, travel, archaeology, space,
Mm. I think people like,
UFOs.
you get like Werner Herzog alone, and you've got such a variety of,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mm,
And whereas I felt that Hollywood, all the excitement that got me to work in film as a
mm,
kid, watching these Hollywood movies
mm,
and wanting to be a part of that, I felt that, and then knowing the industry, I felt that that world was getting to a bottleneck.
mhm.
And I don't know if you agree, but I find that it's been more and more difficult in the last, uh, let's say, 10 years, 5 years, let's say, to find a decent flick.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You
But this
know,
is because they're making things worse. This is the
they're making things
constant,
worse.
it's the what's the word? They use it in like Netflix boardrooms. I think it's called second screen, right?
Oh, right,
You've
right.
got a brilliant script and you're going to put it out in a 10-piece Netflix series, and they go, right, okay, we're going to change the script a little bit. You're going to have to um, reintroduce the plot multiple times. You're going to have to sort
Yeah,
of say it in a different way, at least 10 times at the start, so people understand what's going on, because everyone's playing on their phones and everyone's scrolling TikTok and nobody wants to
see,
get sucked into anything anymore. And for someone like,
100%.
I imagine, like you, and for someone like me that wants to sit and watch something and really get sucked into it,
Yeah,
I put my phone at the other side of the room. I don't want it anywhere near me.
I'm
But
the
then you
same
can
way.
watch something and you go, "Oh, this was built for people who are watching something while they're playing on their phone." So I got into the habit where I'm like, I'll just stop watching something. If I get halfway through a
Yeah,
film and I'm like, this is dog shit, or I'll watch a
yeah,
series and I'll get a couple
totally.
of episodes in, never watching that again. Because there's
Yeah,
hundreds of things out there that are really good that people are still putting time into.
yeah,
Mostly older films. I feel like it's, 2020 and backwards really.
yeah.
Get the occasional good one. I watched what was it? One Battle After Another last night with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a very good film.
Did you like it? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson is brilliant. Yeah, him and
He sure is. Yeah.
anything Korean. Bong Joon-ho,
Oh,
Park
yeah.
Chan-wook.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
adore Korean films. He actually Park Chan-wook just came out with another one we watched the other day.
Yeah.
No other choice. Couldn't recommend it enough. It's great.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess that
What
like
my
world is breaking out now, so people are making more films in Korea. But
Yeah.
it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. The one I heard the other day that the biggest film right now in terms of viewership
Right.
right this moment. This was like a few days ago I heard this
Hmm.
is a Chinese movie or something. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, the model is changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
model. The other day my wife and I went to the cinema for the first time since before COVID,
Oh,
right?
really? Yeah.
And we just watched I picked a random, we're at the shopping center,
Hmm.
and I thought, hey honey, you want to go watch a movie? And she's like, yeah, okay. And sometimes I love all sorts of movies if they're
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
I mean, I could watch heavy, I could watch dark, I could watch comedy. If it's good, it's good.
Great.
And now and
Yeah.
again, you just want to watch good old-fashioned, plain, innocent entertainment.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what we got the other day. And I absolutely have to say, I loved it.
Yeah.
Anaconda
Oh, wow.
with
Yeah.
Jack Black.
Yeah. 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 I
It
keep seeing the
was
posters for it. Yeah.
it was really when you go in to a movie expecting nothing,
Yeah.
and because your expectations are relatively nothing,
Yeah.
if the movie ends up being even slightly good,
Hmm. Hmm.
it it pleasantly surprises you.
Kind of blows your
Well,
mind. Yeah.
this was really fun. I have to really say I enjoyed it tremendously.
Great.
Um, so how the two things mix for me, the archaeology and the film,
Hmm.
was during that time when I was looking after my father. Um, was the time when I actually got in touch with. I had been invited out. Um, there was a Canadian researcher
Hmm.
who's sadly passed away, but Carmen Bolter,
Right.
and she and I had formed quite a sweet friendship because she was very maternal with me
Hmm.
because she had lost her son in a motorcycle accident, and I had just lost my mother.
Right.
And so she had done a documentary series, which I had thoroughly enjoyed. It was called The Pyramid Code. And
About the
and I remember,
pyramids, about what sort
yeah, it
of
was
specifically
about
about the
Egypt.
pyramids?
It
Yeah,
was a long, it was a sort of a 12-hour, it was a long series.
sure.
And she had done it I don't know how many years ago,
Mm.
and had a bunch of really interesting characters in it. I think there were all sorts of interesting people in it. And at the time, I was really watching a lot of this John Anthony West stuff and
Oh, great.
Giza, and
Yeah.
yeah, and she calls me one day. We used to chat for hours, and she called me one day and said, "Listen, you're in Italy. You're itching to do something because
Mhm.
I'm twiddling my thumbs, and my dad was getting better, but he had a
How
nurse,
long
and
was that period before from the time
this
you
was
arrived in
sort
Italy
of
to?
uh, uh, almost a little more than 6 months.
Sure. All right. Okay. Yeah.
So this was sort of within 7, 8 months, and I was getting itching to do something, you
Mm,
know.
mm.
And she says, "Look, I've been working on this project in Egypt, called the Lost Labyrinth of Egypt in Hawara,
Yeah.
and the people I'm meeting with live in Andalusia. It's a 2-hour flight from you in Italy.
Hmm.
I'm flying out from Canada. You want to meet me there?" I
Great.
said, "Hell yes."
Mm.
So I took a flight, and that's how it began. And that's how I first met Timothy Akers and the guys at Merlin Burroughs.
Hmm.
And at first, I just, now this is the interesting thing. It was right around that time that coincided with several other things that were happening
Hmm.
on the technological front. Um, Prior to that, with my production company, you'd go out and film with a red camera, for example, great
Hmm.
cameras, but they're big.
Sure.
Anything aerial, you had to hire a helicopter.
Mm.
But
Mm.
right around that time was when drones hit the market,
Yeah.
and these cinema super 35 millimeter mirrorless cameras started coming out.
Hmm.
So suddenly these products, high quality products, hit the market. And as an independent filmmaker, I started buying all this stuff.
Great. Yeah.
So I go out to Spain, and we go to Egypt, and we go and I'm going every month, 1 week, 1 week here, 1 week there. I'm in Berlin, I'm in London, I'm in Harrogate,
What
Northern
was it?
England.
What was it like to? Because I know there's all this stuff about like particularly like Zahi Hawass and all the people
Mm.
in Egypt who restrict people from doing all that sort of stuff. Are they quite particular about what you can do, what you can film, what you
Oh
can
yeah.
drone? What's that like?
Well, I never brought my drone to Egypt.
Right.
I never brought my drone to Egypt. I A lot of North Africa, for example, when I've been to Morocco, which is right here,
Mm.
14 kilometers across the straits, but they don't allow drones at all,
Oh, really? Right.
for their own nefarious reasons.
Sure.
Um, I have seen footage of drone footage in Cairo, but I haven't filmed with my drone in Cairo.
Mm.
In terms of what's it like, you asked about Zahi. I haven't met Zahi Hawass. I've met a bunch of other people. I have great friends in Egypt.
Hmm.
Um, I have very, very mixed feelings about Egypt.
Yeah. Go on.
You have to have thick skin.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to deal with pirates.
Yep.
You have to be really capable of watching your back.
Hmm.
Um, when when Spielberg made Indiana Jones, he nailed it.
Mm.
He nailed all those shady characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the wicked archeologist
Mm.
and the bad guy from Germany. Like you find these people there, and you think, what am I in a fucking movie?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
funny.
Great.
It's really like that. You find yourself one day sitting in a little cafe, sweating and talking to uh, Egyptologist from England, and he's talking about putting together a group of diggers to go out and dig a site, and what's it going to take, and who's going to finance it, and how do we get the papers, and it's all pirate work.
Mm, mm,
Um, Sadly, I mean, Egypt has been the center of international intrigue regarding archaeology, ancient antiquity for thousands of years.
yeah.
In fact, thousands of years ago, they were already teaching ancient Egyptian history.
And it's all up for debate how how
It's
far it goes back.
it's all up for debate.
Mm,
And so, although we do have some projects in Egypt, um, I think what we're finding here in Spain is, for me, far more. Egypt has been worn down.
mhm.
Like it's been the egos in archaeology go hand in hand. It's very annoying.
Right.
I have some amazing friends who are brilliant archaeologists, whom I've learned so much from and
Mhm.
shared so much with. And then there are other ones, and archaeologists themselves, academic archaeologists, I mean, will
Sure.
tell you the same thing.
Mhm.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
You'll have a certain university, and you'll have this archaeological department
Mhm.
run by, let's say, 5 or 10 people, right?
Right. Right.
And there's a one guy or one lady, and they really have an ego problem,
Mm.
and they believe themselves to be the gatekeepers of history. Like history somehow belongs to them. It does not. Um,
Is that becoming a
Now,
problem now? Because there's so, like for I'll just stick on the Egypt example because we were talking about it. There's so many different people who are going there and are saying the same thing, which is different from the mainstream narrative. I know
yes.
you've spoken a bit with I can't remember his name, but Uncharted X, Ben Van Kerkwijk.
Oh yeah, he's
Um,
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know
He's
he's
a
doing a lot of stuff out
he's
there,
a
but
good
like when
chap.
more
Yeah,
and more people are, you've got this freedom of YouTube now where people can go out and they can talk about things. And I was talking to a
yep,
mate of mine the other day, and he's like, "What? You just watch some YouTube guy?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. You need to. He's a proper archaeologist. He does his work. Just because he's on
yeah,
YouTube,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
No, no,
mean."
hundred
So
percent.
how does that come up against all these what you're talking about, these stuffy
It's a
universities and
wonderful time to be doing what we're doing.
sure.
Now, I always am able to fall back on if anybody questions what I do, because
Mm,
everybody's always going to try to discredit you,
mm,
especially a certain archaeologist. Now, archaeologists have to specialize in something,
mm,
because there's so much to be studied,
yeah.
and they'll try to the first thing, if I hear somebody and the first thing they do is spout off their resume,
Mhm.
I couldn't give a flying fornication.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less.
Actors do the
Spare
same.
me,
Yeah.
because I also went to university here and there and there and there and there. You
Yeah.
want me to spout mine off?
Sure.
This is the way of the future. If
Mm,
you're successful and we have access to technologies today, the technologies that we use,
mhm,
there's some universities that don't have the technologies that we use.
mhm, mhm,
So the argument is dying away. Is there a place for academic archaeology? Sure, there is.
mm, mm.
Has to evolve though, because other people are evolving. The thing that I have to my advantage is I don't belong to any cult. I don't belong to a group.
You've got your own
I don't.
thing. Yeah. I
I
mean,
got my own
you've
thing.
got your group, but that's your group.
I don't have to ask permission to anybody.
Mm, mm,
Plus, we in our extended team, we have a wonderful group of academic archaeologists.
mm,
Um, there was I just attended with Ben Venker and Randall Carlson.
mm.
I attended about 6 months ago the Cosmic Summit in North Carolina.
Right.
Really fun event. I really enjoyed it. Lots of different people
Mm.
from different walks of life, and
What was that? What
and
was that regarding?
Dan
Was that a few
Richards.
different things, or was that a specific?
It was a
Um,
week-long uh, conference with different talks every day.
mhm,
Um, Professor Robert Schoch was there
right.
talking
Yeah.
about geological stuff. The Italian guys who scanned the bottom of the pyramid, Filippo
Hmm.
Biondi, who I've become friends with, um, he was there with his colleagues. So it had a really interesting group of people, and George George Howard, who runs the is just terrific people,
Sure.
lovely people.
Sure.
So you get this sort of a mix of different. Some are a bit far out there with their ideas,
Mm.
others are more scientific with their ideas. But one day we're having a panel on uh, on Atlantis, and there were about five of us or six
Right.
of us,
Right.
and each person was presenting their ideas. Some are stuff that we've already not described, we've already sort of deconstructed.
Hmm.
Our work here is very intense, and
Yeah.
the work we've done here, I'm just gonna say, like, I'm not the best at everything, but when it comes to what we've done here,
Hmm.
there is no one in the world that's done the work that we've done.
Mm.
Period.
Mm.
And I don't mean that with egotistically. I mean it because I know the subject better than inside out.
Yeah.
And so these different people on the panel had their different ideas. Some were talking about maybe Easter Island. Some people were talking about under the ice caps in Antarctica. Um, and then I waited till last to present, but I'd shown my series
Hmm.
or a reduced version of our series um, the evening before,
Right.
and all of a sudden, this guy gets up, an older gentleman, and he stands up and he takes the mic from the audience, right?
Mm. Mm.
And he comes up and he walks up and he says, "My name is so and so, and there's nothing I've heard here today." And I spoke over him and I
Mm.
said, "Listen, old man, the first thing you spout off is I've heard 1,000 like you before.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is not your panel. Have some manners, sit your ass down. Nobody
Right.
cares about your resume." And the
Mm.
first thing he did is spout off his resume. And that kind of irritated me. But I was quick to, I was, on that particular day, I was very sort of in a challenging mood.
Yeah. 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 Well, it sounds like he wasn't even potentially challenging you. He was just saying bullshit, and
It was
that's all I
totally,
have to say.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was the way that he presented himself from the beginning was I'm Mr. Important.
Mm. Mm.
Ego, ego, ego.
Mm.
He
Mm.
was sort of like a Zahi Hawass from the States.
Did you ever find out who he
I
was, or
did. I later on actually I wrote him an email. I said, "Are you that guy that are you that guy that stood up and he wrote back and we had a nice chat, you know,
sure?
and the end I forgot his name. I have it written down here,
Mm.
Steve something or other, I think. Um, but yeah, you have to. The work we've done here has been really it from the first moment that I arrived here, it was obvious that we were finding. So we start with these scans.
Yeah.
We start with research,
Mm.
good old-fashioned textbook research.
Mm.
So if we're
What
looking
was
for,
what was the origin? Why did you? Because you talked a bit about Egypt. Why did
mm,
you come here? What was the thing that led you? Was it a person that said, "I've got a documentary," or what was the?
it was Timothy Akers.
Timothy.
So
Right.
he's the head of. He passed away of cancer. He was the head of research at Merlin Burroughs
Hmm.
and a brilliant man,
Sure.
archaeologist as
Merlin
well.
Burroughs. They do sort of
Merlin
scans
Burroughs
and
are Harrogate based.
right.
They're my partners in Harrogate in
Mm.
Yorkshire.
Sure.
And I think I told you I grew up in even though I'm American, I grew up in all over the world,
So,
but I grew up in
yeah.
Sussex,
Yeah.
in Arundel, wonderful, beautiful little town. And so Timothy had he and I built a wonderful friendship, and I would talk to him hours. We
Mm.
would talk for hours
Mm.
about ancient history and this and that, and the absolute encyclopedia
Mm.
of wealth of knowledge. Um, excuse me. And so what they do is when we start off looking for something,
Mm.
let's say it's a shipwreck, or let's
Right.
say it's a building in the middle of a field.
Mm.
Typically, it starts with good old-fashioned research. Are there things that we find by chance? Sure.
Mm.
Sometimes you're on Google Earth and you see something, you go, "What's that?"
Mm. Mm.
But most of the things that we identify are things that we're specifically looking to try to find.
Sure.
For example, one of our finds is an incredible shipwreck
Hmm.
called the Bonhomme Richard.
That was brilliant. Yeah. Tell
It's
people a
it's
little bit about that for
yeah,
people who
it
don't
was one
know.
of our
Yeah.
first projects together, way before the year before we even talked about Atlantis or
Mm,
anything about here.
mm.
And I'm in the water diving and recovering pieces of burnt beams of this galleon. Um,
So was it what was it? It was a naval ship that was gifted.
it was gifted by the French to essentially America.
Yeah.
Didn't have it was like 1779, I think. America didn't even have a navy at the time,
Hmm.
and they pulled together sort of a band of brigands, sort of band of of they were actually John Paul Jones was Scottish.
Oh right.
There were other guys from Wales and so on and so forth, but they were sort of early Americans. And
Sure.
the French gifted these guys a galleon, the Bonhomme Richard, and they sailed it into English waters, engaged right away in a battle, the
Mm,
Battle of Flamborough Head
mm,
off Filey in Yorkshire, and within a short time, they receive a cannon fire right up the back end of the ship,
right.
killing 19 sailors
Mm,
and busting the masts and setting ablaze the ship. And in a move that's nothing short of a Hollywood movie,
mm,
they pulled their burning boat up against the Serapis, the English boat, swung over, commandeered the English boat, the Serapis, and
mm.
sailed away victorious. So the
Losing
English were
losing the lovely ship in the process. I imagine
losing the
ending up with
lovely,
not
losing
as
the
nice
lovely
a
ship.
boat.
It's incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was this legendary ship of where did it go? How did it? And essentially, it was in total ruin.
Mm,
It was burning, and imagine uh, these people uh, as they're trying to what do you call it, jettison some of the cannons because they're trying to keep the boat afloat, and these
mm,
cannons weigh tons and tons. So they're throwing stuff overboard, and they're purposely trying to get it closer to the shore
hmm.
because that way, the second it goes down, at least they can still get stuff off it.
Sure.
And imagine over the course of the centuries
Mm,
that have since passed, people have stripped it down, and so it disappeared
mm,
effectively.
mm,
Tim had
mm,
located it with these scans, and it started off with proper research. What did the captain's log say? What did locals write about where they saw? How has geological change affected the coastline since?
mm, mm.
And from that information, he would determine where to begin scanning.
Sure.
Sure enough, scanned it, found ship. You measure it, you go, oh, it's about 50 x 54 meters long. It's got this symmetry to it.
Mhm.
Um, the
So
next step
so
is
you go about scanning parts of the ocean or
we go scanning parts of the ocean or
right.
the land, depends on what the discovery we're after,
Sure.
where it is.
Right.
And then at that point, once we identify something that looks like the object or artifact that we're trying to identify,
Mm,
we go.
mhm.
Big part of our work is bureaucracy. We always follow the laws. It's non-invasive. Every country has its own laws regarding discoveries. It's a big part of the work that we do. Is we do everything right.
Mhm.
And in the case of if it's a land-bound object, we go out, we fly the drones. If it's under the canopy of the trees, we use lidar. If it's under the ground, then we start using it could be GPR.
Mhm.
If it's under the water, we have to go dive.
Mhm.
We have to try to see is there. Sometimes we go a small percentage of the time we go and there is an artifact there, but maybe it's something newer, and that's fine.
Right.
It
Right.
happens. But a great majority of the time, our work is so precise that it ends up being something that linked to what we were looking for.
Mm. And when you find
And
when you found the Bonhomme Richard, because it's been there for hundreds of years, what sort
yeah,
of things are I saw the video of the wood being preserved, but what sorts of
yeah,
things are
yeah.
you also finding? Are you finding bits of cannons or like what sorts of things? I don't know what lasts that long
We
underwater.
have, yeah, we have. Imagine. We had to talk about this last week at the guys at Merlin Burroughs,
Mm,
and we were talking about. how over the centuries, somebody would take a multi-ton cannon that was
Hmm.
worth a lot of money,
Yeah.
just the metal.
Mm.
So people would strip it down. But yeah, we've got the remains of one cannon.
Hmm.
One of the guys that we're working with, super nice gentleman, 50 years ago found a stack of cannons.
Mm.
We keep finding all sorts of bits and bobs,
Sure.
rivets, bottles, uh, equipment, gear.
How well are
Um,
those, like, for example, the cannons? Are they preserved? Are they coated? Are they made of a certain type of
co
metal that
there's
rusts,
one
or do
which,
they?
yeah,
Yeah.
completely coated.
Right.
The barnacles and all. It's kind of
Mm.
funny because when you're in the water
Mm.
and you're diving, in my case, I'm generally usually doing about five different things at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm filming, I'm getting my bearings. I have to try to see, not with it's not like a regular recreational dive.
Mm.
It's a dive where you have to put on your goggles of investigator goggles.
Mm. Mm.
And once you start to be able to see through, in your mind's eye, the barnacles and the crustaceans that grow over things,
Mhm.
you start to recognize shapes.
Mm. Mm.
And then you might get closer to something, you start scraping away at it, and you see metal
Mm.
underneath, and you go, aha,
Right.
this is something more than where you might have just swum over it and not even noticed.
Mm. Mm.
So the first time we went down, we started to pull out these burned pieces of beams,
Yeah.
which were burned, and which is a big indication, and were the size of beams that you would have in a galleon,
Right.
and had brass rivets going
Mhm.
through them like a
Mm.
galleon.
Mm.
So I think we've been there now 30 times diving, and we've accumulated a huge amount of wreckage.
Yeah.
Um, and so I started to learn that the technology works.
Mhm. Mm.
I mean, it's a series of techniques that we use. We use a bit of everything. That's how it works.
Yeah.
If it exists, we use it.
Yeah. Could you explain? So I know you've used LiDAR and was it photogrammetry?
Hmm.
You use different types of scans. So
Yeah,
I'm curious, why are there so many different types of scans? What would you use in what
because
specific
each one is
circumstance?
different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for example, for when we're doing a scan of the seabed,
Yeah.
um, we'll use, for example, a multi-axis echo sounder,
Right.
which is it's a gadget, it's a machine, these two rods that you attach to the back of your boat,
Mm.
and it's a pretty complex system, and it sends down a beam,
Sort of like a
and you
sonar.
have to, yeah, and you have to go back and forth very slowly, and
Hmm.
on your screen you start to see you're painting in a 3D topography of the ocean
Right. Right.
floor,
Right.
centimetric.
Mm.
So it's down to the centimeter or
Does that
centimeter.
does
It,
that
it
go down? Because I know it's the classic thing where people say we've not mapped. Well, like, we know the surface of the moon better than we know the surface of the ocean or the bottom of the
oh
ocean.
yeah,
Does
yeah.
does that Can you use that technology for deep ocean, or would you use something else for that? Is that when you're
Um,
closer to the?
to be quite honest with you, like for example, if you're scanning the Marianas Trench,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if that would be used. It's a good question because everything that we're using it for is within, 100 feet.
Mm. Right. Okay.
So I don't actually know, strangely, even though I've been using it for years, I don't know how deep it would go. They're different. Even there's a special type of, like LiDAR, for example.
Mm.
LiDAR is generally used to penetrate organic material.
Right.
So that if you're flying over a forest, the
Mm.
jungle of the Amazon, or the forest over here, the Donnellan National
Mm.
Park,
Mm.
um, with a traditional camera, all you can see is treetops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there is a type of LiDAR that you can use underwater.
Hmm.
It just depends on the circumstance.
Sure.
And also sometimes you might do a scan of let's say you do a LiDAR scan
Hmm.
of a field. But you might also complement it with a GPR scan
Hmm.
to confirm the findings from one to the other.
Hmm.
So we live in an era between drone technologies and scanning technologies that exist. Um, Also, if you consider even scuba diving and satellites, they're relatively new ththings.
Mm. Mm.
So we're if it exists, we use it.
Sure.
Down
Sure.
the road, if something new comes out, we'll use it.
100%. Yeah.
And it kind of brings me back to what you said earlier. We're living in a time where, talk about YouTube and academics potentially critiquing. Um, that time's kind of going away, man.
Mm. Mm.
You people like us, even though I do come from the academic world, but people like us are free now to explore all of these different things.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing which has been really interesting, which is I have colleagues and friends, dear friends, who are very bright archaeologists, but let's say, and at the end of the day, archaeologists are people too.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I have friends who both studied archaeology at, let's say, University College of London,
Mm.
and both are best friends.
Mm.
And yet you ask one of them, what are your thoughts on Atlantis? And he won't even look at you, changes the subject. And you ask the other one, what are your thoughts on Atlantis?
Mm.
And you'll say, you know what? Actually, I've been looking into da 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 and pa pa pa. And
Mm.
so it really depends on the person. But I will say that I've met during the last years that I've been working on this, I've met and I'm friends with archaeologists who, when I met them,
Mm.
would laugh at the even the word,
Sure.
which actually I don't use so much. I use the term ancient Atlantic culture,
Mhm.
less frightening. And fast forward to now, they're not laughing so much
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Because of
In
the
fact,
discoveries. Yeah.
yeah, I've actually the work we're doing actually sheds light, but possibly some of our theories are really pretty interesting.
Mm.
It sheds light on previously mysterious structures, which you'll ask an archaeologist, who built this? And they don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though that's their field of study. However, if you put it in context with the civilization that was destroyed previously,
Hmm.
you go, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Excuse
Can
me.
I? It's all right. Give me a minute. I'm gonna pop to the toilet because I've been down in
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wanna. I want. I've been. I think I had an alert on my calendar for months and months. It's still there. It's like I've sort of extended it now, but it was every single week. I had a link that came up to your website so I could
Oh
check to
yeah.
see if the series had come out yet. So I've extended it for like it comes like every 3 weeks or so now because I'm like, oh, it's still not there.
You
But
know, it's the question we get the most. When's the series coming out? When's the series coming out?
mm,
It's it's such a strange project because for example, we were talking about the Bonhomme Richard
yeah,
earlier.
yeah,
That that documentary and that discovery is already registered, and that documentary is close to finished.
mm,
We didn't release it because I as a independent film studio, I thought because we have literally hundreds of discoveries. Right
mm,
now, we have seven in production.
hmm,
Um, at different, they're all completely different. I mean,
yeah,
imagine one shipwreck. One shipwreck is really one documentary. We're not going to
hmm,
make a series out of one shipwreck.
sure,
So the two things go hand in hand. You have the discovery, which you register with the country where it's found,
hmm,
and so on and so forth. And then you have the documentary, which is documenting. It's not just entertainment; it's
hmm,
actually the documentation of the discovery.
hmm,
But when it came to this project, Atlantica, it was such a different animal because we were finding hundreds
yeah,
of structures
yeah,
scattered throughout this coastline. And uh, even though we started in 2016,
mm,
one of our biggest discoveries regarding this ancient Atlantic culture that Plato described is the submerged city about 5 kilometers off the coast. And it's absolutely unbelievable.
mm,
When we scanned it, it was we were diving there. It's a very complicated place to dive.
hmm,
We'd gone back and forwards a bunch of times. You have to wait for the certain visibility, very difficult, and we got to a point where I said we're going to have to do a hydrographic scan over here, a multi-axis echo sounder, because we could, when you're diving, as a human,
Hmm. You're limited. It's such
you're
a it's such a massive space as
it's
well.
a
So
huge 2 kilometer wide, and in
yeah,
one dive you got maybe 45 minutes in your tank.
right.
And how much space you might go 100 meters,
Mm, mm,
and then every dive you maybe if the first dive you started over here and you went over there, the second dive you start in the same place but you go in the other direction, and so on and so forth. So every dive you're trying to collect more material, film more stuff,
hmm.
and it was obvious there was stuff going on that was artificial,
Yeah.
and it was obvious that it had been destroyed.
Hmm.
But we couldn't. We were drafting out with a pen after the dive, and sort of an idea of what, based on our navigation measurements,
Mm.
we were drawing out sort of what we thought we were seeing,
Right, right, right.
and it just wasn't. It didn't make sense. We had to scan it.
Yeah.
When we went out and scanned the first day, I'll never forget it. As long It's one of the most incredible days of my life.
Mm.
After hours of scanning, what appeared on the screen was nothing short of, when I saw these concentric circular walls,
Hmm.
I flipped out.
Yeah.
I got in because they sent the 3D topo my scanning partners at Prisma. Prisma is our other scanning team here.
Yeah.
Alejandro and Sergio Aleo, and they're wonderful guys,
Mm.
based in Cadiz. And I got to give a quick shout out to my team, because I've already given a shout out to all my boys at Merlin Barrows, Timothy, obviously, Bruce Blackburn, and John Hart, and my little brother Chris Heapy and Elio, and
Mm.
but
Mm.
our dive team here, Rafa, Boris, Luis, Eugenio, Tete, these guys have become brothers to me.
Mm.
And our scanning team here, the following day, sent us the viewable 3D model,
Right.
and I'm looking at this thing, and I go,
Yeah.
holy shit,
Yeah.
this is concentric circular city.
Yeah.
And I pick up the phone, I call one of our guys, Jose Manuel, and I go, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" And
Mm.
we're from the hair. Look, the hair's going up on my arm. It
Everyone's just
was
shouting from
oh
different
my
places. Yeah.
God, it was unbelievable. Um, and it's a funny thing because that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I realized, Michael, don't do 6 episodes. Do multiple seasons, because this could go on for fucking ever.
Mm. Mm.
Do 3 episodes, then 3 episodes, then 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Um, so people ask me, when's the series coming out? When's the series coming out? It's in distribution.
Hmm.
We are going through an American distributor for the simple, distribution at the end of the day is a bit of a mafia.
Hmm.
But when you get something distributed to the big networks in America, it gets distributed everywhere.
Hmm. Hmm.
When we go through a distributor that's local to a certain country, it's likely going to just go out in that region, in that
Yeah.
territory.
Yeah. And you want to, this is a
Um,
big thing. So you want to
there's
proper
anything.
get it
Did
out there with
did
a
I
big,
send you the 3 episodes?
no, you've not. No,
I thought you saw them.
no, no, I've seen that. I've seen the trailer on several
Dude,
occasions.
I thought you saw it.
No, no, no. I've been waiting. I think I
Bro,
told you I've been
bro,
waiting.
bro. Dude, I really thought I'd sent them to you.
No, no, no. It's fine.
I'm
I've
gonna
got
send them to
nothing to
you
do.
with,
My
dude.
my partner
I'm
is
gonna
away this weekend, so I've got nothing else to do but sit and
Okay,
binge them.
I'm gonna send those right after we talk. I
Please,
thought,
yeah.
bro, you need to see them with a password. Don't share it with anybody.
Yes, of course. Yes,
Um, yeah, dude, you got to see the first 3 episodes.
I would love that. Yeah.
The second season. So the first season, the first 3 episodes, focus centrally on what Plato said, and
Right.
here and this region, and our discoveries
Yes.
directly related
So
to what
can you
Plato said.
yeah,
Yeah,
can you tell people about that who don't know? Because that's the only text, isn't it? Is Plato's
yeah.
text that talks about there's no other record or anything, or are there? It's
Well,
just
I mean, there's
Plato's.
there's but Plato's the texts on the dialogues on Atlantis,
Mm,
which are there are two texts. The
hmm.
Timaeus and Critias are combined, let's say, the Bible of the subject.
Sure.
Are there other mentions of this grand ancient Atlantic culture that once existed? Yes.
Hmm.
But Plato's are the founding texts
Sure.
that give us an idea.
Can I ask you, because I
Yeah.
know I can't remember, you'll know what this is, but there's somewhere out, I think it's in the Middle East, there's like a bit in the desert, and there's an ancient sort of concentric circle geographical formation or something, and people have scanned it and people have gone there, and people talk about this being Atlantis because apparently it was concentric circles.
Where in Egypt?
I can't remember. I don't know if it's Egypt. It's somewhere. It is out in the desert. It's a really vast space that's got some weird geographical
Africa.
formation. Is it Africa? And people have talked
It's
about that.
called the
So
Richard structure.
yes.
The Richard structure is and has been, it was popularized not that long, maybe like 5 years ago by some YouTube guys saying, we found Atlantis.
Mm, mm,
Even when I went to North Carolina, a buddy of mine there, that was his whole, he'd been invited to talk about the Richard structure.
right.
Um, and I always say things as respectfully as possible. It's an amazing feature.
Mm,
It's
mm,
incredible looking.
yeah.
It's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
It's not Atlantis.
No. Is it natural?
Here, it's a natural formation.
Sure.
It's up to interpretation. To different people have different ideas about it.
Hmm.
It's quite easy to disprove or prove why it is not, certainly not a man-made city.
Mm,
Um, it is as beautiful as it is, and
sure.
it's marvelous as it is. It is an Atlantis.
Mm. So what leads in Plato's texts? Because this we'll get into this now because this is why
Yeah,
we're here. We'll
yeah, yeah,
finally get into it.
yeah, yeah.
What? How do you know that what you found is very likely Atlantis and not some other ancient city or ancient structure? I know it matches a lot
Sure,
with the texts.
sure,
I'm
sure,
fascinated to hear that
sure,
connection.
sure. Okay, this is why I want you to watch the series.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I want to
I,
watch the
I
series.
really, no, you'll have to forgive me because we are very controlled with, our manager David is great, and he does a great job with our publicity and controlling how but we often send out the links,
Mm,
not very in a controlled manner, to people like you
mm,
who are doing it so that when we do a talk,
mm.
they have seen what we've
Bit of the
done.
knowledge.
Yeah,
I'm running
and
on nothing here. It's just
oh
me and a
shit,
pot of
man.
coffee.
I thought you'd see. No, I've got this other group that I've been in contact with in England this very week,
Mm,
and they've seen it. So in my head, forgive me, I couldn't quite remember but you'll see it. I'll send it
sure.
to you.
Great. Great.
So the story essentially begins in a place that we just went recently. My
Mm,
my colleague and good friend Gabriel Santana. We went to the final ruins, the last remaining 15 pieces of stone
mm,
from the Temple of Sais
right.
in Egypt.
Mm,
Here's the story. Plato writes 2,400 years ago,
mm,
he writes this bizarre story
mm,
that is so detailed, but the two texts combined are 50 pages.
mhm,
You
mhm.
can read it in half an afternoon.
Sure.
And in these two texts, which are written in the form of what they used to call dialogues, which kind of, when you look at them, it's a bit of a strange way of writing, but it's a bit reminiscent of a film script.
Sure.
Uh, you know, Timaeus, who was one of the people in these texts, is talking, and then Socrates is talking, and so you have Socrates, and then it has what he says, and then you have it's like a film
Yeah,
script.
I know that's like a lot of Plato's. Why did what do we know why it was written this way as
No,
opposed to another way?
I suppose it was because that was sort of it's like sonnets,
Yeah,
why were sonnets written the way they were,
original Hollywood or yeah.
yeah, it was sort of like it was written because dialogues, literally spoken dialogues, were something that these ancient philosophers used to do. They would get into a room,
Mm,
and it was sort of, instead of class time, it was like think time. Let's
mm,
have a chat,
mm, mm, mm.
you know. They probably smoke a joint and sit around the table and and enjoy a nice talk about all sorts of subjects. It could
Sure.
be philosophy. It could be, and so in his two texts, the Timaeus and Critias, Plato talks about this story that was passed down to him
Hmm.
from his great 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 uncle Solon 120 years earlier. Solon was his old relative,
Right.
and Solon was no mere human.
Mm.
Solon was the famed lawmaker of Athens.
Mm.
So
Mm.
no clown. This guy was the man who wrote some of the laws of ancient Greece.
Right.
Let me just turn this a little bit here because
That's all right.
I want to be framed a little bit better. um, and Solon had told this story to his nephew or something like that, who told it to his other nephew, told it to their son, who told it to. So the story was passed on in that
Mm.
manner
Mm. Mm.
until finally Plato wrote it
Right.
down.
Right.
Now, let's backtrack a little bit. Think about 2,400 years ago,
Mm.
Egypt was socially and just in every way completely different than the Egypt we know today.
Mm.
Um, it was, thousands of years before the invasion of the caliphates and the
Mm.
sort of the sixth or seventh or eighth century, and the current Egyptians that are likely the closest to the ancestral Egyptians would
Mm.
be the modern day Coptic Christians of Egypt.
Sure.
And so, and the Greeks revered ancient Egypt. To them, to the Greeks, to the modern day Greeks at the time, the Egyptians were, oh, they looked up to the Egyptians in the
Mm.
same way
Mm.
that later on the Romans revered the ancient Greeks.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, taking a trip from Greece to Egypt would have been a great excursion, a lovely holiday, so to
Hmm.
speak. And
Hmm.
and by that at that time, tourism was already quite a thing.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is how we know about the labyrinth as well, is loads of different people from around that time
Exactly,
visited and actually went there.
precisely. Herodotus
Sure.
and Pliny and whatnot. So there's this group of priests
Mm.
called the priests of Sais.
Right.
Sais was a city that existed in the Nile Delta.
Mm. Mm.
And when you see it now, it's the ass crack of Egypt. It's completely sort of very uninteresting old new city
Mm.
built at the edge of literally these. But back in that time, um, this group of this sect of priesthood were the gatekeepers of ancient knowledge,
Sure.
of ancient civilization,
Mm.
dating. They were one of the oldest sects of Egyptian priesthood, and more specifically, they had the uh, the ancient text that spoke of past destroyed civilizations,
Mm. Mm.
and Solon is there. I can't quite remember if he was exiled there for a while or if he was on holiday. I think it was one of the two things. But he's in Sais, and the priests of Sais, whose main goddess was Neith, I think, um, tell him this peculiar story.
Mm. Mm.
They say, Solon, you Greeks are like children. You don't even know your own history. You
Mm.
don't know that both you, here's the interesting thing. He says, both you Greeks as well as us Egyptians
Mm. Mm.
have the same ancestors
Mm. Mm.
that came from outside the Straits of Heracles,
Mhm.
exiting the Mediterranean into the Atlantic, but not, and he tells you in the region that the Greeks know as Cadiz,
Mhm.
Cadiz.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people go on about, oh, the Eye of Africa, the Richard structure in Africa,
Hmm.
or Atlantis is under the ice sheets in Antarctica.
Hmm.
Plato tells you where it was, the
Mm.
capital. Now he does say that they controlled the majority of the Mediterranean
Hmm.
all the way to Egypt and the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is Italy, and beyond into the Atlantic.
Hmm.
But the capital
Hmm.
of this grand empire, controlled by Poseidon's sons, there were
Hmm.
five sets of twins, and he goes
Mm.
in through through the lineage and the names of these sons, and the two
Sure.
oldest twins. There were five sets of twins,
Hmm. Okay.
which is very peculiar,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And to this day, and this is something that is always fascinating, but to this day, the province of Cadiz has more twins than anywhere else. I heard that. And I thought, how the hell is that possible? And then an archaeologist friend of mine, we were talking about that, and she said to me, well, it's either an incredible coincidence
Mm.
or it's maybe due to modern day fertility techniques.
Right.
Yes. So, I don't know. And I
Mm.
don't even know if it's true. I did hear that there are more twins born here than anywhere else.
Hmm.
In any case, um, he talks about now keep in mind that at the time the ancient Greeks had already colonized this part of Iberia,
Hmm.
Iberia being Spain and Portugal, the
Hmm.
Iberian Peninsula.
Right. Right.
So the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, the town of Puerto Santa Maria, which is
Mm.
right around the corner from my house, 15 minutes down the road,
Sure.
it was an ancient Greek city. It was
Mm.
called Portus Menisteus.
Mm.
Menisteus was this Greek hero who had just fought in the Trojan War and was escaping, and he was being chased, and he hid in the river here, and they didn't find him, and they kept going,
Mm.
and he built the city of Portus Menisteus there. The Greeks knew this area. They used to vacation here. It was a
Sure.
Greek colony.
Sure.
So it wasn't as if it's not as if we were talking about a place that was in any way foreign to the Greeks. Absolutely not. It was
Mm.
very well already navigated. Um, and he tells Solon that in the region of Gades, the province of Cadiz, which is the province I live in, it's a
Mm.
very big province in
Is it
Andalusia.
still the same name?
Cadiz,
Cadiz. Right.
Cadiz, it's the same exact name.
Right.
And it's just to give you an idea, the province is large. It
Mm.
goes past Gibraltar, including
Hmm.
Gibraltar,
Hmm.
all the way to Seville and all the way to Huelva.
Right.
So it's a massive territory.
Mm.
And he goes on to tell you about these people. They were destroyed by a flood, and he tells you all sorts in these 50 pages. You've got
Mm.
more details that you
Mm.
can imagine. He talks about the culture, their architecture, their wealth.
Mm.
He talks about what the buildings looked like, and they were
Yeah.
coated with precious metals and
It
ivory.
sounds a lot more specific than any story that was passed down at the time. It's very particular.
It's down to the
Yeah.
names of places,
Mm.
which down to the animals. He talks about horses, elephants, and bulls, and bees,
Mm.
the honey,
Mm.
all things which are directly related to this place right now. And you think the horses of the Donnellan National Park and the bulls, the famous bulls in the mythologies of Atlas and Hercules,
Mm. Mm.
those stories didn't occur in Greece. They occurred here.
Right.
And then Hercules, after involving himself with his cousin Atlas,
Mm.
Poseidon's son,
Mm.
doing one of their quests with these bulls here, crossed the straits into Morocco. And there's more stories in Morocco that we cover North Africa in our second series.
Sure.
Um, the first series is specifically based on what Plato says about this area
Mm.
and our discoveries and how they coincide exactly with his writings.
Mm.
And people
Mm.
say there isn't a single detail. If there was one I'm a very hard critic on myself.
Mm. Mm.
I when I've made mistakes or we've made mistakes, I'm quick to fix them.
Yeah. I
Um,
imagine you're always trying to poke holes in your own. I was talking to a mate of mine the other day. We were talking about Egypt and Filippo Bondi is the one who's
Filippo
currently doing
Biondi, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Biondi. We were talking about that, and I was like, you need to realize these people who are doing these studies and going out there and doing these dives or whatever they're doing, they're not like it's not like you find one little thing and you go, oh, that must be Atlantis. It's like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
more of a skeptic than anyone else. So I imagine you're constantly poking holes in your own
I'm
studies and
very
discoveries,
cautious,
and yeah,
and when you find a shipwreck,
mm,
it's a different ball game.
sure,
You First of all, you do your research, you find something, you go there, it
mm,
turns out to be a wreck.
mm,
Your next step is identifying it. Once you
mhm,
identify it, done.
yeah,
It's pretty cut and dry,
hmm,
or cut and wet. um, when it came to this, it's so distinctly different from our other discoveries because it's not one artifact.
hmm,
It's on top of which this area has been habitated uh, for millennia,
hmm,
since prehistoric times. Just up the road in Seville, there's an amazing place called Valencia de la Concepción, which has been studied thoroughly by two of my dear friends and colleagues, Manuel Pimentel and Pepe Orihuela,
mm,
celebrated scholars,
mm,
brilliant guys. And it's the largest prehistoric settlement in the world. It's like 13 hectares. There's
right, right,
dolmen there. Dolmen is megalithic structure, sort of along the lines of, usually you see like uh, two two giant stones with a slab on the top, right?
mm, mm,
That's a
mm,
dolmen.
okay,
Anything that's sort of along the lines of a, obviously the most famous would be Stonehenge,
yeah,
but those kind of buildings, you have remains of it's right up the road.
mm,
We have caves here. We have an entire episode dedicated to this subject. Caves that have human remains, but I mean like necklaces and gemstones
mm, mm.
dating back 35,000 years.
Mm, mm. So you're
Um,
talking about the city of Atlantis, which is now obviously underwater. How far back are we theoretically talking?
well, geologically speaking, this is the thing that's just so incredibly accurate with Plato's text.
Mm,
He tells you, he tells the priest of Sais tell Solon that this empire was destroyed by a cataclysmic event
mm-hmm,
that dated back 9,000 years for their time.
mm-hmm,
So you add 2,500 years to that,
mm-hmm.
you have 1,100, 11,400, 500 years, right?
Which that times up with Younger
The
Dryas
Younger Dryas
impact, and
period.
yeah,
Absolutely.
mm,
And what he does is he tells you that in this area
mm,
of Cadiz,
mm,
Cadiz, they had a coastline filled with oceanfront cities and
mm, mm.
hustle and bustle of harbors and this and that. And he talks
Sure.
about an inland sea, and he says, but the capital city
Mm,
was this island, concentric island made of canals and rings of land and water.
sure.
And he gives you measurements. He gives you in stadia.
Mm,
Stadium was the about 184 meters. Half a stadia would have been about 92 meters.
right, right,
And he
right.
gives you in these measurements, and he tells you that from the inner Acropolis area, it was X amount of stadia. To the outer Acropolis was X amount of stadia.
Mm, mm,
Combined, it's a measurement of roughly 2 kilometers.
mm,
And he talks about how in the center there was this temple dedicated to Poseidon and Cleito, his wife,
mm.
and it was covered in orichalcum, this still mysterious. We don't know quite what it was, but we reckon it was mountain copper, which is ample here.
Right.
The Rio Tinto mines, which are still active mines, are some of the oldest mines in the world. It's
Mm.
unbelievable. You go there, it looks like the Grand Canyon.
When you're reading those texts and what was the word you used for the copper?
Mountain copper. Oh,
Uh,
orichalcum.
Orichalcum. So how do you go about estimating what that is? Does he describe it or?
It's he describes it uh, as a material. Some suggest sort of a metallic material
Mm,
that shone red in the sun,
mm, mm,
that glittered red. So it's we're not really 100%. People think it's perhaps an alloy,
mm-hmm,
so some type of a alloy of maybe mountain copper and something else.
Mm.
Other people have suggested maybe it's sort of a powdery substance that maybe they emulsified and would paint on their buildings.
Sure.
Um, but every detail of what Plato talks about exists here. The autochthonous, the indigenous horses of this region and the indigenous bulls of this region
Mm. Mm.
are the oldest species. Oh my God.
You okay?
We've had a lot of wind, and I have these palm trees, and now and again
Does it slap the window? Oh, right. Oh,
a
right.
branch falls down. Yeah. Um, Christ Almighty, that fucked me. It fucking scared the shit out of me. And they're the oldest species in the world.
Right.
And then people say, but elephants, there are no elephants here.
Mm.
There sure were.
Mm.
They found prehistoric ivory trade here
Mm.
in
Mm.
huge quantities. They found footprints of fossilized footprints of elephants on the beach next to my house.
Right. Right.
Um, and the interesting thing about the ivory trade that they've discovered from prehistoric times here is it wasn't just ivory from one type of elephant, it was from
Mm.
three types of elephant,
Mm.
including the Asian elephant, which
Right.
proves that in prehistory they had transcontinental ivory trade
Mm.
and
Mm.
communication.
What three were there? I know off the top of my head the famous two
African
are the African and
Asian,
Asian, and then what was the third
and
one?
then you have African Asian, and then
Sorry, it's
good,
not a
you
quiz.
caught me. No, you caught me. You caught me. The third one I'm forgetting because a lot of these interviews, I do them in Spanish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I have to, there's a third one. I'm forgetting it right now. But
Right.
apparently there was also another type of elephant which isn't around anymore, which was kind of a small elephant
Mm. Mm.
with small ears. And
Mm.
and Plato describes these elephants as having been, and the horses,
Mm.
as having been important in the daily running of the empire.
Mm. Mm.
And he goes into all these details. And if there was one single detail that fell out of context, I
Mm.
would be the first to admit it.
Mm.
But when, after 10 years of researching and diving and finding things here and realizing fits,
Mm. Mm.
everything fits.
Mm.
Now, just to go back to the Richard structure for a minute,
Sure.
not that I want to focus on that too much. It doesn't follow Plato's texts.
Mhm.
First of all, another thing Plato says was that the empire was in the view of the mountains that we now assume to be the Atlas Mountains.
Sure.
Well, the Atlas Mountains, I can see them from my house
Mm.
across in Morocco. I see them from my
Mm.
house
Mm. Mm.
on a clear day. Um, However, it's important to note that even though they're broken in the middle by the Straits of Gibraltar, the Atlas Mountains come around and actually form, they continue to create the Sierra and the Sierra Nevada of
Mhm.
Spain,
Mm.
which are also in view. Gibalbin is the Sierra of Cadiz, is right here, and I can see that from my house. So
Right.
they says there was this massive plain and
Mm.
an inland sea.
Mm.
The inland sea is now it was called Lagos Ligustinus. Even in
Mm.
Roman times, it was navigable.
Mm.
Everything he talks about is here.
Mhm.
The Richat structure is, first of all, it's depending on how you measure it, it's between 40 and 60 kilometers in diameter.
Right. Okay.
Um, it's beautiful. It's stunning.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I have my theories as to what I believe it is.
Mhm.
But first of all, it's not the same measurements Plato gives you, which are
Mhm.
roughly around 2 kilometers in diameter.
Were any ancient cities even that large?
No,
That seems like quite a large size for in comparison
you'd
to what we
have to
know of.
be, think about Venice, right?
Yeah.
Think about every city in the world, from Amsterdam to Venice to
Yeah.
cities that were built on
Mhm.
waterways,
Mhm.
artificial man-made cities
Mhm.
that were built with the canal systems.
Yeah.
They were always built to human scale.
Mm. Mm.
Like even in Venice, if you roll your window down and you would call out the window, "Hey, Grandma, I'll see you for dinner," and they could hear you.
Mm. Mm.
the Richard structure. What are you talking about? Like, how tall were these people?
Mm, mm.
400 meters tall. Hey, buddy. And the distance between each canal is the same distance that we have from Morocco to Spain. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we've got markers in London. There's red and white bollards all around for the ancient original city of London, and
Sure,
it's
sure.
tiny. Well, I
It's
go through it on my bike
tiny.
all the time, and you literally cycle in and out of it, and you're
In and
done.
out.
Yeah.
The whole idea that that was a man-made city is preposterous.
Mm, mm,
Um, another thing is people say it was in view of the Atlas Mountains. Actually, no.
mm.
The Rishat structure, you can't actually, you're too far away.
Sure.
I don't know how many, 500 kilometers away.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Or now, no more. I think I've measured it the other day. Um, it's closer to 1,000 kilometers away from, I think it's 500 kilometers in from the Atlantic.
Mm,
Another thing about the Rishat structure, it's 500 meters above sea level. And people
mm,
say, no, it was pushed up. People have fallen into this. They haven't read. It's so easy to see when people have not read this.
mm, mm.
It's also easy to see when people don't know geography
Sure.
or geology. People have listened to YouTube videos and believed. I like people to believe in stuff. It's great. Believe in stuff. Like,
Yeah.
let your mind. Like, there's nothing more wonderful than sense of discovery and adventure, whether you're right or wrong, that a child has.
Mm, mm.
Keep that childlike part of your mind
Yeah,
forever.
I mean, it must be difficult though as well because, like, again, we were talking about Egypt earlier, and it's been like it's been studied by everyone. So you come up against a theory, like I was talking the other day about electric pyramid theory, which I don't
Mhm,
particularly believe. I know there's all
mhm,
this stuff coming out now about it being a chemical plant, which is
mhm,
fascinating. I don't know if
mhm,
it's true, but
mhm,
when you're coming up with Atlantis. There's
mhm,
how many people did you take the work off of before? Because I can't imagine this was I mean, not nearly as widely studied as Egypt,
mhm,
but did you take
mhm.
were you reading ancient texts as Plato as well as were there a lot of people who studied it before? How
Oh
much work
yeah.
was done on
Oh
it
yeah.
before
Yeah.
this?
I mean,
Particularly, sorry, with your with what you found as opposed to
sure,
the Reichstag structure or like
sure.
particularly this area.
If there's a book, if there's a text, if there's an, I've either got it or I'm researching it,
Yeah.
and there's stuff that we've been researching that is connected to this, that is off limits to the public,
Mm,
that I've recent like if there's the people first started to murmur
mm,
that Atlantis could be in this area in the 1600s.
mm, mm,
Um, Even in the early part of the 20th century, a very famous archaeologist, Schulten, um, studied this area.
mm,
He was mainly interested in the Tartessos, which was one of the oldest empires in the world
mm,
from here, from Iberia,
mm.
um, often considered by myself as well to be the descendants of the survivors of Atlantis,
Right.
for many different reasons.
Hmm.
Um, the thing that we have to our advantage is, and I've got, by the way, we have a community here
Mm,
of people who have also been studying the subject of Atlantis in this area, who are guys, women, and men from here
mm.
who knew it was here. They've
Yeah.
known, like I've heard stories here, and slowly but surely we're getting together to, as a community,
Mm,
because we understand that Plato was talking about this place.
mm, mm.
What's really fascinating is there's a lot more to this that can't, you're talking about the chemical pyramid theory and all that.
Mm.
Uh, I have my own theories about the pyramids. The pyramids' original construction and original designers is very vague.
Yeah.
They don't really know who built those
Yeah.
things. And I think
At
my
the very least,
personal,
we know that, again, I was saying to my mate the other day, we know that they weren't built, that the mainstream narrative is not what is the case. The
They're
fact
they're
that most people don't know that not a
tombs.
single mummy has ever been found in the
Never
pyramids, and they're completely different from other Egyptian structures in terms of
completely. Have you
there's
been
not a
there?
single. No, I desperately want to go. I've
When you go
watched a lot of
into
work on
these
them, but
things, you crouch down in this weird little, tunnel,
mm,
which obviously not made for inviting people in, like a church, or
yeah, yeah,
there's no hieroglyphs inside.
yeah,
So you're trying to tell me that they made this impossibly sized structure,
yeah,
impossibly sized structure
yeah.
to stick the cadaver of some dude?
Yeah, and now we're
Get
finding
out
out
of
about the what is it, 1.2 kilometers beneath the pyramid as well, and we don't even know what that is. And there's those
here.
tunnels that they found with the big
Yeah,
blocks that are perfectly cut that wouldn't have barely fit through the
yeah,
tunnels into the rooms. I can't
yeah.
remember what those rooms are called, but was it? There's
The
no
King's Chamber and the
King's Chamber, and there's no proof of any source of light being used. So supposedly, loads of men
yeah.
pushed blocks that they couldn't have possibly pushed through perfectly carved tunnels without any source of light. It's
No.
mental. So,
Do you know what I if you're capable of building the pyramids that they built
mm,
in Giza, it you have to, by way of logic,
mm,
you have to assume certain things happening in parallel.
mm,
The first thing, which is obvious, they had industry.
mm,
What does that mean? Now think about our industrial revolution, of which we're still part of right now,
mm,
which
mm,
you say would have started sort of in the 1700s. Even though the Greeks and the Romans and all had ingenious mechanisms,
mm-hmm,
and we had the Middle Ages, and so you have ups and downs, and we're at the end of the day we're little insects living on this giant ball. We are not as tough as we think we are, and the second that anything terrible happens, be it a cataclysm or pestilence or war or whatever it might be, or the fall of a civilization and
mm,
the rise of a new one,
mm,
things easily get dipped back to zero again.
mm-hmm,
You have to start it over again. But one thing that is clear about the builders of the pyramids is that they had industry.
yeah,
And what we tend to do when we have industry is we tend to go both enormous and tiny.
mm-hmm,
So the reason the pyramids have survived till today is simply thanks to their immense size. Even when the caliphate criminally tried to dismantle them, and he did to a certain degree, to build the market Khan Khalili in Cairo, it was just too massive to dismantle, and they abandoned. They were going to use it to completely quarry them away.
really,
Um, and when it comes to industry, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have tiny things also emerging from industry, tools,
mm,
lenses,
mm,
but they're the first things to disappear.
mm-hmm,
If you find an old fork in a field, but it's not that old, it's
mm,
from the 70s.
right,
You're gonna pick it up, and you're not gonna think it's that interesting.
mm,
If you find a golden spoon from the 17th century,
mm-hmm,
you're gonna find it more
sure,
interesting.
yeah,
So similarly, the first things that people do is recycle stuff all the time. If you
mm,
find a bit of metal, you're going to recycle it.
sure,
Um, where and plus, people think, oh, something made out of iron lasts forever. It does not last forever. The
mm.
second rust sets in, that object is gone.
This is what really surprised me about the Bonhomme Richard was it seemed like it was out of nowhere because for people who don't know that I imagine the water has preserved those massive bits of wood and then watching you put them back into what looked like almost like pig troughs of water. I was like, wait, why
Yeah,
are you
yeah, yeah,
doing that? And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no,
You
because
have
that's
to.
actually going to preserve it as
You
opposed
have.
to you would
I
think
got
they
a
would just rip it
cannon.
away.
I've got a cannonball over here, and I keep it in a jar. I keep it in a jar of water. The
Really?
second I take it out, it'll go bad. It'll
Wow.
it'll start to. I can't. There's a way to do it where you have to. Because right now, I just opened the jar to show a friend of mine
Sure.
the other week, and you open it, it's just black water,
Yeah, yeah,
and you open the jar, and the smell of iron hits you.
yeah.
And I reach in, and it's gradually getting more and more flaky.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a way where I can take it out. It's a small caliber cannon, so it's about that big.
Right.
Um, there's a way where you can take it out slowly while keep changing the water, changing the water, changing the water,
Mm.
and eventually you can start to desiccate it and coat it with oils and
Right.
stuff like that.
So you need to what? You need to keep it in the same water. Are there any? Is it like ocean? Is it
You know,
seawater? Is it?
right now I have it in seawater.
Right.
What we have the trough that you saw us put the bits of the Bonhomme Richard in,
Yeah.
that's just regular fresh water.
Right.
That's regular fish water, but that's a whole process for preservation.
Yeah.
Um,
So I would almost imagine like the salt would sort of grind away
oh
at it
yeah,
slowly in the
it's
water. So
corrosive. It's
yeah.
corrosive, yeah.
Yeah.
And then different materials, less than other. When it comes to wood,
Mm.
it depends what type of wood. I mean, they would
Right.
make galleons out of things like elm,
Mm.
woods that had a natural defense against water.
Sure.
Um, Another thing that we see that we've discovered tons of examples of here along the coastline is petrified wood.
Mm. Mm.
Petrified wood beams from ancient floor,
Hmm.
as well as petrified trunks toppled over.
Right.
So it looks like that ancient coastline had been hit by something. The trees got knocked down,
Yeah.
covered over in massive quantities of sediment,
Mm.
which created anaerobic conditions, which are perfect for over time converting that wood to petrified wood.
And is that
So
the
we found
same? Is that the same like what hundreds of years ago? This is the same as the Bonhomme Richard,
thousands.
or is that okay? Right, much older.
No, the Bonhomme Richard wood is still wood. It's not
Sure,
petrified.
sure.
But whenever you pull something out and it's got this sort of a smell of rotten wood, egg,
Mm, mm,
and it's sort of black in color.
right.
Not there's black from the burning, but there's
Mm,
also that's indications of anaerobic conditions,
right, right, right.
which works to our advantage because
Mm,
it means that that wood isn't rotting.
mm,
It's the same as the principle of how they built Venice. Venice was built in a marshland
mm,
um, using what they call palafitos.
right. Which is
Palafit,
which
which
are
are these wooden pylons that were treated a certain way,
mhm,
and they were hammered on these barges that would float out on these, and they would hammer these these pylons into the muddy, submerged muddy waters.
mm, mm,
And the way that these pylons were hammered into the silty mud
mhm,
would cause that mud to get compacted,
right.
and they didn't go anywhere.
Mm, mm,
And the entire city of Venice is built on millions of these pylons,
right.
and it still exists today. And those pylons, when you take them out of when they examine them, have turned to stone. They're
Mm, mm,
petrified.
mm,
So, so wood is actually even more durable than, in some cases, metal. Depends
right.
what metal. Obviously, gold lasts forever. Iron does not.
So when you're okay to bring it back to Atlantis, then
Hmm.
what sort of things are you discovering? I would love you to talk about as well what's been washing up on the beach in what the last couple of weeks you mentioned.
I went last night. I
You,
went
you
last
did
night
go last night,
with
yeah,
my colleagues, and yeah, I went and filmed. Fucking nuts, dude.
yeah,
Fucking nuts. So now and again, it's happened twice since in the last 10 years
yeah,
that a storm
hmm,
has helped us.
right,
So even though I hate the cold weather and I don't like stormy weather and whatnot, when it goes on for months and you start getting sort of glum,
mm,
um, on the flip side is the storms often clear away so much material.
mm,
And in the case of this area, which is so rich with historical layers,
mm, mm,
civilizations, you start to these things start to appear,
mm,
and that's exactly one of the things that's been helping us. When we talked about industry and all the small little gadgetry, people say, "Well, haven't you found sort of like any metal stuff?" That's actually the hardest stuff to find, either because people found it before and recycled it, or and the things that we're discovering that are still visible
mm,
are either still visible because, like the pyramids, are
mm,
so big that they haven't been moved,
yeah,
or because they're so big and they're covered over in water, and people just haven't seen them.
Mm, mm,
Um, but now, one of the things about diving here, which is so complicated, is the visibility is next to zero.
right.
And that's part of the reason these structures have been preserved
Hmm.
until we're finding them now.
Is it
Um,
structures like what remains under the water? You're saying metal sort of erodes if it's smaller bits, especially if it's not coated.
mm,
Are you finding any sort of like
giant
ancient jewelry, or
walls,
is it small things, or is it just large things? Imagine
giant
the small things have
walls,
fallen away. Yeah,
smaller walls
yeah,
toppled over.
yeah.
We found enormous megalithic walls
Mm,
that go on. You'll see it in the series.
mm, mm.
You'll see it. It's really fucking nuts, man. Um, the storm that recently hit
Yeah.
revealed the coastline gets eaten here.
Hmm.
It's eaten away every year, every year. You hear these stories. And just yesterday, we filmed uh, the what's one of the things that's appeared have been these. In Malta, have you ever seen these images of these? They look like cartwheel tracks,
Yes, I have. Yeah, the ones
and they're
that are
really,
cut into the stone.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Same thing we found here.
Wow. Right.
Um, we found yesterday, we filmed circular wall of what appears to be an ancient well
Mm, mm,
that's just starting to appear out of the cliff edge, the sandy
mm,
cliff
mm,
that wasn't visible. These things weren't visible last month.
mm.
And these are things that, thanks to having been covered over
Hmm.
by huge quantities of sediment,
Yeah.
were preserved.
Mm, mm,
And the number of stories that I've heard since I've lived here of elderly people who grew up here
mm,
who say to me, "Oh, I remember when I was in my 20s, I worked in construction and we were
mm,
digging over here and suddenly we came across this megalithic wall
mm,
and the foreman of the project, the head of the would say covered over
mm,
because
mm.
then the government would stop construction and
Right.
you'd lose your project."
Of
So
course. Yeah.
that's part of the problem. I kind of wish that the different authorities of different places were, instead of, if you own a piece of land and you're a farmer
Hmm.
and you come across, there's so many stories, there's so many people that found stuff here. It's really
Mm,
unbelievable.
mm.
And you find something. I think the laws of the countries, when it comes to archaeological finds in your property,
Yeah.
should be built in such a way that it instills desire in people who find stuff to share it with the public.
Yeah.
Right now, the laws are set up in such a way that people, they're hesitant to even register anything because if they do, maybe their house gets taken away or whatever the case might be.
Right. Sure. Do you find that people come to you because you're out there
Yeah,
all the time? Do people come
yeah,
to you with
yeah.
stories or things that
All the
they
time,
found? Yeah.
all the
Right.
time. Yeah, all the time, all the time. The stuff we have here is. So people talk about Egypt. Now, here's a relationship between Egypt and here. In antiquity,
Mm,
as today,
mm.
well, today there's the Suez Canal
Yeah.
that, but in antiquity and today, the only two places that you could enter and exit into the Mediterranean
Hmm.
was here,
Right.
the Straits of Gibraltar, and in Egypt. People say, well, in Egypt, no, before the Suez Canal, you couldn't. Well, yeah, the ancient Egyptians had carved artificial channels that would connect the Red Sea with Egypt. So it was there were the only two places where you could navigate in and out of the Mediterranean,
Mm.
which means
So that
trade and
would that have been around the same time? Then that would have been why potentially they were such a massive city, was because they controlled the.
exactly,
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
exactly. If you controlled those 2 points
Mm,
strategically,
mm.
you were a god.
Yeah.
And what do we have in Egypt? The gods. And
Mm,
what do you have here? The gods.
mm, mm.
The gods were just very fucking powerful individuals,
Yeah.
families of powerful individuals. They controlled the, the known world.
Mm. So how does like okay, because you were talking about in Plato's story, you were talking about Poseidon and Poseidon's sons, and how
Yeah,
does that connect? Because as far as I know, Poseidon, he's god of the sea. I think of the Little Mermaid. So
yeah, 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 yeah.
how does that cross over? How does that?
So Poseidon came from. Uh, he had, I think, there were five, five or six brothers and sisters.
Right.
Zeus,
Mm.
Zeus, Poseidon. I'm blanking right now, but they each one of these controlled a different part of the Mediterranean,
Right.
effectively.
Mm.
Poseidon, historically or mythologically speaking, controlled here the entrance of the straits,
Mm.
controlled all trade, maritime trade, and whatnot.
Sure.
Zeus controlled, he ruled from Mount Olympus in
Mm.
Greece.
Mm.
So each one had a strategic sort of a, um, and the story is kind of an interesting one because it seems to me, when they say that history is written by the victor,
Mm.
the story goes that Zeus. Think about Zeus. Zeus. I'm not very religious. I grew up Catholic, but I'm not particularly religious. I'm
I did
just
as well. Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to use this not so much in a. I'm going to use it to show Jesus, right?
Mm.
Jesus.
Mm.
What is the word? What is the name Jesus? The etymology of the name Jesus
Mm.
is two words.
Mm-hmm.
He, which is Jesus. He is Aramaic for son of
Mm.
Zeus.
Mm.
Zeus,
Mm.
son of Zeus. In Roman times, Zeus was the god of gods.
Mm.
In the pantheon of the gods, Zeus
Sure.
was the. So the story goes that Zeus gets irritated. God gets irritated
Mm.
at the behavior of humankind and decides he's going to wipe out humanity by way of a great cataclysm, a great
Mm-hmm.
flood.
Mm-hmm.
And it all coincides with the timeline of the Younger Dryas
Yeah.
impact
With
theory
that
and all
thing that
that.
there's like 100 and some odd flood myths around the world, and every single
Every
culture's got one, and they all coincide
every
around the
culture.
same time. And there's, yeah, yeah.
And I kind of get the impression that we have to consider all sorts of different interesting theories, ideas, concepts, no matter how wild they may seem.
Mm.
One of the things that the ancients were really and truly advanced in it
Mm.
was astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're sitting perched on the peaks of Mount Olympus,
Mm.
you're going to have a pretty darn good view of the stars.
Yeah.
So I'm almost imagining Zeus and his colleagues there in Mount Olympus as being probably the best at stargazing. And in one way or another, I assume that they were able to track, like we do today,
Mm-hmm.
celestial bodies.
Sure.
And could there have been celestial events occurring at that time that could have impacted the world? Of course.
Mm.
We have that today.
Yeah.
Our human life is so short that most of us will never really even see a tsunami. We have because we've watched it on TV with Japan and the one in Indonesia, was it before that?
Right. Right.
That gave us a taste. But imagine a tsunami that's way worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this idea that Zeus survived. Why? Because he's so far up that the water didn't hit him.
Mm.
And he writes the story, or he has his followers write the
Mm.
story about how he destroyed humanity by way of a cataclysmic event. I think he predicted it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Anybody living in this area would have been dead.
Yeah.
The only people surviving here at the entrance of the straits. Now, just to give you a geological backdrop to this area,
Please.
this area receives earthquakes regularly. We're on a fault line.
Okay.
The African tectonic plate pushes down on the European tectonic plate. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it works.
Sure.
Every year, it's estimated we have up to 12 mini tsunamis that are not even noticeable.
Right.
Now, every 600 to 1,000 years, we have a proper Billy
Mm. Big
Badass.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah. And now and again,
Mm.
we have a civilization changing type thing.
Sure.
The last major earthquake here hit Lisbon. Portugal's 2-hour drive from my house.
Mm-hmm.
Lisbon is effectively around the corner from us. And Lisbon and Portugal forms, by the way, part of Lisbon. Portugal is part of this whole story because at that time there was no Portugal, and
Sure,
it was
sure.
part of the same
Mm.
people. Um, and in 1755, which is relatively not that long ago,
It's just a day ago. Yeah.
it's just considering they had newspapers. Let's put it
Sure.
that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, this earthquake hits Lisbon. I think something like 60,000 people die.
Right.
It triggers a series of tsunamis, and I don't know if you've seen the animations of how tsunamis, the physics of tsunamis work.
No, I haven't.
Water wraps its way around things.
Mm.
So if there's a bay,
Mm.
the wave will wrap its way around it. It's fascinating how
Mm.
water
Mm.
works. And these series of tsunamis impacted the coast here tremendously. And
Mm.
there are in the newspaper accounts of people who had never seen a tsunami. They didn't know that the phenomenon of how tsunami works.
Mm.
They said we saw waters retreating,
Mm. Mm.
and when the waters retreated, we saw a city appear
Mm.
from under the
Mm.
waves.
When was this?
So this was 1755.
1755. Yeah. Okay.
So I believe that the city, the ruins they said they saw,
Mm.
is the city that we've found now.
Mm. Mm.
Um, it's it's something like in Roman times, a massive tsunami
Mm.
impacted here.
Mm.
The oceanfront city of Tarifa and Bologna were abandoned.
Mm.
Before that, the Tartessians were said to have uh, potentially been eventually just wiped out by a tsunami.
Right.
We're at ground zero for any kind of ocean-bound cataclysm here,
Mm.
whereas other places are a little bit more secure. Egypt, the Nile Delta, happens to be in the inside of the Mediterranean.
Mhm.
So to some extent, they're a little bit more protected.
So where you
Not
are is pretty
here.
much, yeah, where you are is pretty much the worst place to have
The worst.
an ancient city.
The worst.
I'm
The
curious, are
best
there?
and the worst. The
Yeah,
best in the sense that you control all commerce coming in and out of the
yeah,
Mediterranean.
yeah,
That's why Gibraltar was so important to the English.
yeah.
Um, but the worst in terms of you better have an exit plan as soon as the earthquake hits.
Sure. I'm curious, are
And
there other um, sites that have been found under the ocean that would have been devastated by? Could you explain very quickly for people who don't know what the Younger Dryas is? Could you explain that? And then, are there other ancient sites under the water that match up with this sort of a cataclysm as well?
the city that we found under the water
Yeah,
is is what
yeah,
matches with this perfectly. The Younger Dryas period. So the Earth has these sort of regular cyclical ice ages.
yeah.
They range between, I don't know if it's 70,000 or 200,000 years. You have these sort of ups, downs, ups, downs. People talk about global warming and whatnot.
Mm.
Hey, should we be more responsible as human beings in terms of pollution?
Of course.
Sure, of
Yeah.
course we should. Do I really think we have as much of an impact as some people suggest we have? Not as much as we think we do.
Mm. Mm.
The world goes in peaks, ups, downs, ups, downs. They say this. Anyway, the Younger Dryas period is this mini ice age that seems to appear out of nowhere.
Mm.
It's a little bit inexplicable. It becomes more explicable when you theorize certain concepts, like the comet impact theory.
Mm-hmm.
In my point of view, now the different celestial bodies have different compositions.
Yeah.
A meteorite is not the same as another meteorite. A comet is not the same as a composition. Comet might be made up of, it's like a dirty snowball, they call it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Was it
It,
asteroid is like a big rock and a comet is
yeah,
a
there's
big
different.
snowball, essentially. Yeah.
There are, and also a meteorite
Mm.
is
Mm.
actually, once it's landed
Mm.
on the
Okay.
Earth, it's
Right.
called a meteorite. Before it's landed, it's a meteor.
Right.
So they all have different terms. But a comet, let's say you have a massive comet. Let's say
Mm.
it's 60 kilometers
Mm.
wide, right?
Mm.
The outer shell might be sort of dirty snow, dirty ice.
Sure.
It might have a hard nucleus,
Mm.
But imagine you have this really and truly enormous thing.
Yeah.
It comes in, it's not quite like but it's what happens with a glass of water at room temperature when you drop an ice cube into it. It's
Mm,
going to cool down until half an hour goes by and it eventually goes back to room temperature.
mhm, mhm,
How is a comet going to be any different?
mm,
It's also going to have an incredible impact on. Now, you can go in all sorts of directions there, but I like that theory because it explains the sudden cooling
mhm.
of the Earth for I
Yeah.
think 1,300 years or something
Which
like
we've got
that.
proof of around the world, right?
Got proof of around the world.
Yeah.
Um, you have this concept of the Earth that humanity was brought down to its knees,
Hmm.
barely scraped by.
Mm,
At the same time, you have in different parts of the world, including here,
hmm.
India, China, Turkey, incredible numbers of man-made caves.
Mm.
We have this idea of the caveman as being our first ancestor. I have a different theory. I think the cave people were the survivors of this god-awful moment.
Mm.
If we know that the climate was affected so terribly
Yeah.
for 1,000 or 1,300 years, you can only imagine that the survivors would have done everything they can to get out of the way of huge what do you call it, the balls of ice, hail.
Oh, right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Imagine, I mean, even when I lived in Modena here in Italy, about 7 years ago, they had such a bad hailstorm that cars were destroyed
Yeah.
and insurance companies were flipping out because I saw a video. I had already moved here. It was the year I moved here. My friends were saying, "You missed this storm." And they
Mm.
were showing me a parking lot full of dented, smashed
I've
cars.
seen them with like the baseball-sized hail that
Yeah.
kills dogs and smashes things
Imagine
apart.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
imagine that times 10.
Mm.
Those poor buggers would have wanted to live in a freaking cave to
Mm.
survive.
Mm.
So that goes on. The survivors tell these stories of to their children and their children and their children.
Mm.
They had to be pretty freaking tough people.
Mm.
And you have cities like, Derenyenku in Turkey under the ground.
Right.
That seems to me like you're trying to survive some horrible event.
Mm.
And but the knowledge remains.
Mm.
They knew that they had the ships that they used to build ships. What were ships? Ships were things that floated on the ocean.
Mm.
They knew about tool making. They knew,
Mhm.
but it just had to perpetuate verbally, orally,
Mm. Mm.
until the weather got good enough and slowly population started to increase. And that's when you have this boom of megalithic construction, which is
Mm.
such a mystery, but not a mystery if you look at it in this context.
Mm.
You have this Younger Dryas period, something happens terrible. Humanity is, you have woolly mammoths with fresh figs and fresh food
That's right. Frozen
in their stomach,
instantly. Yeah.
frozen
It's like
instantly.
daffodils frozen in their
Yeah,
mouths. Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Mm.
Yeah, that's a little bizarre, isn't it?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Um, and all of this starts to make sense.
Mm.
And I've got a dear friend archaeologist, and she specializes in dolmen. For people who don't know, dolmen are, like we said earlier, these giant megalithic structures.
Mm.
Um, and I asked her, I said, who built these really? Do you know? She
Mm.
goes, we don't have a clue.
Mm. Mm.
We speculate, we have theorized. Sometimes in a one dolmen, you might find the skeletons of a couple.
Sure.
Um, and we base the age of that dolmen based on those skeletons, but that's not always accurate. Those skeletons might have been put there thousands of years after those dolmens were actually built.
Mm. Mm.
Um, when it comes to dolmen, here's the interesting thing. There are 35,000 megalithic structures in Europe,
Mm.
the majority of which are concentrated in southwestern Iberia, here.
Mm.
The oldest dolmen in the world are here.
Yeah.
So I look at dolmen construction and I get the impression you have to use logic. You say,
Mm.
well, what do we know? What do we don't know?
Mhm.
Just from observation, you can tell that they were built by people who had a knowledge of large-scale construction and engineering.
Mm-hmm.
No joke.
Mm.
There's Dolmen de Menga, which is the most beautiful dolmen right near here. Is you have slabs of stone that weigh, I don't know how many hundreds of tons.
Mm. Mm.
Um, what they do seem to lack is the finesse of tools that only industry can bring.
Mm.
So I get the impression that whoever built them came with the knowledge that was passed down of the previous civilization that was destroyed,
But without the industry.
but without the fine tool
Yeah.
craftsmanship.
Yeah.
So they knew leverage, they knew how to do this and that, but maybe they just didn't quite have. I also do have the idea that, like, take Stonehenge. I think Stonehenge, the way we see it today,
Mm.
wasn't much like what it originally looked like. I think
Sure.
what it originally looked like, it might have been. We know that the dolmen here were often coated with paint
Mm-hmm.
inside and plaster.
Mm.
So these giant stones are what you see today, but maybe when they were first made,
Mm.
they would have been actually plastered over, perhaps,
Sure.
painted. So
So is it your idea that the civilization, was this Atlantean civilization, was it wiped out, or did some people survive and then they went on to create these
right,
structures after?
right.
Yeah.
So here's the deductions that we've made.
Mm.
We have in the mountains, which are the Sierra
Mm.
of Cadiz, of this province, and the Sierra Nevada,
Mm.
we have thousands upon thousands in Almeria, thousands of caves,
Mm.
man-made caves.
Mm.
And some of these, it's really pretty impressive. Some of these caves are in Almeria, for example, and here in the right near 20 minutes from my house,
Mm.
we have these incredible caves that I told you about earlier that have
Mm.
remains that date back 35,000 years, right?
Mm. Mm.
Um, in Almeria, you have what looks like a miniature Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
In
Okay.
fact, it looks so much like the Grand Canyon that they, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they opened film studios there, and they used to film these westerns in Spain.
Great.
It's really, and you can still visit. They're really fun places to visit.
Mm.
But when you drive down these canyons, you'll see the sheer cliff. And I also believe that these canyons were formed from tremendous sedimentary deposits, likely at the same time.
Mm.
Because there's different clues. You can see where water accumulated, and
Mm-hmm.
then within a short period of time, maybe imagine this: tons and tons, I mean, incalculable tons of material get pushed in, and water gets pushed inland from
Sure.
this terrible event.
Mm.
The only people that survive are up in the mountains. They're looking down and they're saying, "Oh my God,
Mm.
what is going on? Our entire coastline's been wiped out. All
Mm.
of our family members gone."
Sure.
So the only people that would have survived such an event would be way up on. Water gets pushed in,
Mm-hmm.
sediments get deposited in such tremendous quantities,
Mm.
forming also these sort of inland lakes.
Mm. Mm.
And let's say one of these with a natural dam barrier.
Mm.
Let's say that water sits there for 6 months, and then part of this natural barrier breaks,
Mm.
and then the water level drops, and then 2 months later, it breaks more and drops. So what do
Mm.
you see in Almeria? You see, it's really fascinating. And I started to think, like, what is going on here?
Mm.
You'll see this sheer cliff wall that's a few hundred meters high,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see one, two, three man-made caves
Mm.
just hanging
Mm.
300 meters up, 200
Mm.
meters up on this sheer wall.
Mm.
And then you go down 15 meters and you see one, two caves,
Mm. Mm.
horizontal, like perfectly aligned. And then you drop down another 10 meters and you see one cave and then nothing.
Mm.
And the logic is, like I just said, some poor bastard survives. He's made his little canoe.
Mm.
He's scavenged out of the soft embankment, a cave.
Mm.
Then this thing, the dam breaks, and suddenly his lake has dropped down 15 meters.
Mm.
So he crudely scours out another cave. Then a few months go by, and again it drops.
Mm. Mm.
And then finally he just goes, "Fuck it, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
So you see that a lot here.
Right.
And that's never been fully explained until now,
Mm.
with the
Mm.
explanation that I think we're onto something.
Mm.
Um, and I think within a couple thousand years, people started to reemerge. The phenomenon of these megalithic structures reappears, and then slowly but surely, like with the advent of the Tartessian Empire, not to be mistaken for the word Tartaria, which you see floating around the internet.
Which is what's the difference between those two?
They're completely Tartaria is it's not fully fabricated. Tartaria was sort of a Russian civilization, but the YouTube channels have invented Tartaria as being this global thing that was it's a complete fabrication.
Mm.
No,
Mm.
Tartessos. There were different ancient tribes of Spain. Tartessos is one of the oldest ones.
Mm-hmm.
The Greek writer and historian Strabon had visited Iberia, and he had written 2,500 years ago, whatever it was,
Mm.
the Tartessian people. Now he had encountered the later stages of the Tartessian Empire, which by that time were called the Turdetanos.
Mm-hmm.
He said the Tartessian are the most advanced civilization that I've met in Iberia.
Mm-hmm.
They have laws dating back 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Now he's writing this 6,000 plus 25. So he's saying that the Tartessians had laws, which means they had writing and
Mm.
civilization
Mm.
8,000 some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, which many people theorize that the Tartessian text, which has so far not been decoded,
Mm-hmm.
is older than cuneiform.
Sure.
It's the oldest writing in the world, and there's so many things which indicate that they are the descendants of the people who were destroyed before them.
Right. Right. Right.
Plus, you stick in the middle between the destruction of Atlantis and the
Mm.
emergence of the early Iberian tribes,
Mm.
you have this megalithic phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
which now is explainable. You have something being destroyed,
Yeah.
civilization reemerging, boom,
Yeah, they didn't come out of nowhere. They had a history beforehand that they
that
built
is history
upon, but
beforehand.
like you say, didn't have the industry to connect with. How
Yeah.
long would it have taken? How many years, or tens of years, or hundreds of years would it have taken to start rebuilding after the Younger Dryas? How long was that? How long had that affected people to the point where they were unable to build or rebuild society?
I mean, I think you have a certain period of time where Plato makes a very interesting statement
Mm.
at the beginning of his texts on Atlantis. He says when humankind is placed in a survival state,
Mm.
the first things that are lost are the unnecessary luxuries,
Sure.
including, I mean, you can whistle, but playing the guitar, forget it.
Mm. Mm.
Writing, not so useful unless you're making a notch on the wall to calculate how many bags of fruit you just plucked off a tree.
Mm.
But when you're put into a survival situation, you're really just trying to survive.
Mm.
So, um, then the next logical step is when things do get better, you go back into sort of a very um, primitive tribal community
Mm.
setup.
Mm.
So small social structures,
Mm-hmm.
which is what you see. Um, and depending on what memories you're equipped with from your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
So if your ancestors talk to you about, oh, we used to have cities and ports and canals, what is that? And this is where it gets interesting. There is one of the oldest caves here. There's
Hmm.
one of these caves that I talked to you about. It's right here in Gibraltar, near Gibraltar. They have some of the oldest paintings in the world.
Hmm.
And the paintings that they have in the caves here, in this particular cave, which is called Via, it'll come back to me, depict not just one boat,
Mm.
but a fleet of large ships
Mm.
with
Mm.
oars,
Mm.
and they're hunting orca. That means out in the ocean.
Hmm.
So whoever painted these things on this cave painted it in a time when industrial navigation already existed.
Mm. Mm.
So imagine you're the survivor, and maybe in your lifetime you actually haven't seen the ships or big society, and you're in a cave with your partner and five kids
Mm.
and maybe some grandkids if you're lucky.
Mm.
It's up to them to try to rebuild society. So in the case, if you're talking about a tribe, sort of like these undiscovered tribes in Guinea,
Hmm.
right?
Mm.
I think in some cases, those tribes might not have had um, advanced ancestors.
Mm.
So maybe their way of life has continued till today
Hmm.
in the way that it has. But they still know how to build houses with rooftops on them,
Sure.
funny enough. They
Sure.
still know about spears,
Mm.
funny enough, right?
Mm.
In many cases, they still have canoes, funny enough.
Mm.
But if you're coming from a story, an oral tradition that tells you that we had magnificent cities with a million people, for
Mm.
example,
Mm.
um, I think that then it would only be a matter of a few thousand years
Mm.
to get back to that.
Mm.
And it
Mm.
brings me back to the subject of modern day industrial revolution, which we're still at the ass end of, or
Yeah.
maybe not, maybe we're in the middle of it. Now we have microprocessors, but it's all a result of the industrial revolution,
Yeah.
1800s and whatnot. So we've managed to come pretty far in a short period of time.
Mm. Mm.
And once the things start ticking, we're talking about AI earlier.
Hmm.
What's gonna that? Remember the video of, it was only a couple years ago, the Rock eating rocks,
Oh yes, it was the Rock eating rocks, and it was Will Smith eating spaghetti.
spaghetti,
Yeah,
right?
and there's the comparison of now, and it looks like he's actually doing it. It looks like a video of him
It's
just eating some spaghetti. Yeah, yeah,
insane,
it's mental.
and that's in 2 years.
Yeah.
So progress can happen overnight. What I do think about things like the pyramids is I don't think they were tombs.
Mm.
I don't think anybody really thinks that they were tombs.
Mm.
Um, I don't think some might have been. We have plenty of examples of actual pyramids, or let's call them burial mounds,
Sure.
like Amesbury and whatnot in England, and
Mm.
there's plenty of them. That Yes, they were tombs,
Mm. Mm.
and Knossos and Crete. We have Agamemnon and whatnot. So,
Sure.
but when it comes to the Giza pyramids, um, I can deduce, I think people can deduce that they certainly had a precision engineering industry going on.
Mm.
Um, they certainly were built. If you're going to go through the effort to build something like that, you're doing it. It's so interesting. I love to consider the people that built those pyramids as people who cared about humanity,
Mm.
because I think that whatever their purpose was, whoever built them intended for them to survive the eons.
Hmm.
They wanted those structures to benefit mankind forever.
Hmm.
Today, the American model of constructing suburbs with 3,000 identical homes
Hmm.
that are made out of paper and cardboard,
Yeah.
that are built like crap, so that in 30 years, the multinational company that owns them can tear them down
Mm.
and put another 30,000 ugly ass houses up there that look the same with no soul,
Yeah.
and fool the poor American buyer into believing that they should pay rent, mortgage on that house for the next 36 years of their life, by which time that horrid building will look dilapidated.
Yeah.
It makes me, um, I like the plant you have in your background, by the
Thanks.
way.
There's loads more about.
Oh man. And it makes me think that when whoever built those structures cared about their fellow man.
Sure.
And I wish that we could learn more today. We're so greedy.
Mm,
We're so greedy.
mm,
Let's try to think about the bigger picture a little bit.
mm,
Let's
mm,
help our fellow man, you know? People were
100%.
so we're so eager to criticize, and it's easy to sit behind your keyboard, and there's some bored assholes in the world, you know? You sit behind your keyboard, and I get 99% of my message, 99.9% of the messages I get
Mm,
are lovely,
mm,
really lovely.
mm.
Like, it makes me happy because people
Except for
see
that one guy, that one archaeologist who stood up and wanted to give you his CV
I'm
and
I'm I'm pretty good at just, I grew up in English boarding school. Like I grew up in and
you're built
and
for
I grew up in
this.
hell.
Yeah.
You want to fight? Come on then. You think you're fucking well old? Come on, son. I'll fucking take you on.
There we go.
Fucking yeah, no. And so I'm not afraid of a good, but then sometimes, most of the time, if I get the one random comment, let's say on YouTube,
Mm,
and it always happens, I'll say that's a bit of a pungent one, isn't it?
mm,
I'll click on the guy's account and I'll
sure.
have a look, and it'll be they've had the account for since 2012.
Sure.
They have zero or two posts,
Mm.
and the posts might be two bizarrely random videos about nothing.
I've spent many an internet haul looking at those channels. Yeah.
And I go, what? And I instantly realize that this person probably has a mental illness,
Mm,
because you really have to be a sad, lonely asshole to watch an entire 2 hour podcast, for example,
sure.
and your message at the end is, and I go, well, you still watched it though, didn't you?
Mm,
You
mm,
know, but I just I would like to see a future where we take everything that we have available today, all this ability for you and I to talk.
mm,
You're in London right now on
mm.
a boat,
I know. It's a
and
grand
here
old
we
time.
are talking in real time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid in England, there was a great TV show. I loved it. It was called Tomorrow's World.
Don't know it.
It was you're a lot younger than I am. Um, and it was a really cool. It was back when I was growing up in the UK. There were five channels: BBC
Mm,
One, BBC
mm,
Two, ITV, and Channel Four.
right.
And the programming was really good.
Mm.
We had TV shows like Faulty Towers
And now you've got
and
everything. Now you've got endless Netflix and Amazon and
900
Hulu and
channels of crap.
yeah.
You know, um, and yet today, and I remember in Tomorrow's World, there was one episode where they said one day we'll be able to actually have video calls with each other
Mm,
in real time.
mm,
And here we are,
yeah.
thinking nothing of it. But when I was a kid, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to see, it's a strange moment, and I don't know if this moment, there's so much conflict going on. People are so, people are so buried in a TV show that they like, or
Mm,
watching something that, but while they're sitting on their ass,
yeah.
that they actually take on. There's no better place to see this than in Los Angeles. They take on the. They lack so much identity that they actually take on the persona of their favorite television character. I used to love playing this game. I would sit on the patio of a restaurant with my buddy having a beer and watch people walk by. And you could tell by the way they were dressed
Mm,
or by the way they acted what TV show they watched.
yeah.
Sons of Anarchy,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the Vampire Show. It's
We all know people who see an actor, either a character or genuinely an actor, and they want to
yeah,
just recreate that personality, and the whole
because
personality
they're
becomes that.
so devoid of their own. I don't know. I don't know really. I'm not a psychologist,
Mm,
but I would like.
I think there's no history. I think that's
No
it. It's just the day to
history.
day. There's
That's what
just
it is.
day to day turnover. There's no connection to anything. This is the thing they talk about nowadays, right? Is was it Generation Z? I can't remember if there's another one. Alpha
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Is parents are no longer able to teach their kids anything because there's a lot of things they don't know, and the world is
Mm,
changing every day. It's
mm.
the thing where what generation after generation
Yeah.
parents would they'd pass down a skill or a trade or a
Yeah.
way of seeing the world, but now it's there's so much that's changing just in my lifetime alone. I've grown up, I sort of like, I remember being a kid and not really having a computer or anything
Mm,
like that, and now we've got phones, and before you know it, I bought a new phone the other
yeah.
day, and now you've got the goggles, and I was chatting to the woman in the store, and she was saying that
Yeah.
people will go to the shops wearing the goggles.
Yeah,
You have
bro.
your shopping list on your eyes, and you just
Nah,
swipe and you check it off.
nah, nah.
um,
We've
but
turned into fucking nutbags.
yeah, so I think it's that
Look,
thing of like, yeah, go on.
I bought one of those goggles. You know, I love video games. I'm a nerd.
I think that's a different thing. I think the integration with the day to day, what is virtual reality versus augmented reality is the word
Yeah.
that they use, right? I saw,
Have you
was it?
seen these bozos running around with the Mac eye goggles on a scooter in the
Yeah,
middle of the city,
yeah.
and they're doing hand gestures?
Yeah, there's a new computer. I can't remember the name of the computer. There's a brand I saw it on Instagram the other day. It's the screenless laptop. So what you do is you don't have any screen. You open it almost like an iPad cover, but it's almost got a little
Oh
sunglasses
boy.
things, and you open it and you put the glasses on, and it's got a
Oh
wire that
boy.
attaches. So you've just got a
Don't do
keyboard,
that.
and you'll be sat in the
Too
cafe,
much. That's too far.
doing
No,
this.
I can't. I can't. I refuse. I refuse. No, but I bought I'm more of a PC gamer. I have a PlayStation which I occasionally turn on if I have guests over.
Mm, mm.
Um, but I when those goggles the Quest, whatever they're called, when those came
Oh,
out,
the Oculus.
the Oculus, I
Yeah.
have those. And um it was kind of a novelty at first, but I realized from the first moment that within half an hour I would
Mm,
get nauseous.
mm, mm.
And I just
VR
don't.
motion
I
sickness. I got it as well.
absolutely, and it would last. I would have to sit for about, good hour. I would
Yeah.
be nauseous afterward.
You get
I
all
don't
you
use
get the
them.
sweats and you don't move. Got my mate.
Yeah.
He's got one. He's got an Oculus, and what was it? It was the Peaky Blinders game, and I couldn't finish it. I played it for a
No.
bit because I'm a big fan of the
Yeah.
show, and I got
Yeah, it's a great
so
show.
ill.
Yeah. No,
I
it's
think I
terrible.
felt it coming on because my partner
Yeah.
she got ill after like 5 minutes
Yeah.
playing it. She's like, I can't do it anymore, and I was like,
Yeah.
right, I'll give it a go. Went for like, I want to say half an hour,
Yeah.
and I felt it coming on
Yeah.
about 10 minutes before I stopped, and I should have
Yeah.
stopped the second I felt it because I literally I was prone on the floor for
Yeah.
like 4 hours after that. I couldn't get up.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, speaking of Tomorrow's World, that
Mm,
television show years
mm,
ago, they even back then had were dabbling in virtual reality.
mm.
And I remember it just vanished.
Yeah.
No mention of it for years and years until recent years since these goggles have been coming out.
Mm,
It's because it took that long for the technology resolution
mm.
to improve enough to where you could make a feasible commercial product.
Yeah.
But even now, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, my Oculus Quest, I don't know which one I have. I think I have the two.
Mm,
Um, I can't remember how much it was. Maybe 300-400 bucks. I can't remember. Reasonable.
mm,
But then when I see Apple, I've always had, if it's a product I like,
mm,
I've been loyal to it.
mm.
I'm a Windows guy, but I also have Apples, right?
Sure.
Um, ever since the first, oh, my iPhone's over there. Ever since the first iPhone came out,
Mm,
I've had iPhones, but I've also had Androids.
mm.
Um, I'm not here to do product reviews, but I've become less and less enthusiastic over Apple products. I feel they really need to pick up the ante. You can only take brand loyalty so far
Mm,
before you realize you're taking a Mickey. I mean, I would always buy iPhones mostly for the camera capacity.
Mm,
Because imagine, as a film director and doing a series on what I'm doing, it occasionally happens that I find myself, I've always got cameras and drones everywhere,
mm,
but now
mm,
and again, I find myself in a place and I see something and I'm mesmerized by it.
mm,
And I go, oh, fuck, I got to film this.
mm,
But I don't have my Sony with me. I don't have my drone with me. So I would rely now and again, not often, on having a good camera.
mm.
And that's why I forked out the a large amount of extra money that you have to fork out for an iPhone
Yeah,
Pro.
yeah.
And I have to say, I am completely disappointed in the camera.
Mm.
You know, my Huawei phone, which they've made almost impossible to buy anywhere in the world, it was way better.
Mm, mm,
Um, and when I saw Mac coming out with the goggles,
mm.
which run for like $4,000,
Yeah.
I'm thinking I don't know where you're going with this.
Mm,
I have one friend who has a pair,
mm.
and the only reason he has a pair is because he does product reviews.
Right. Yeah. I don't know many people who have them. I was saying it to the woman in the Apple store the other day because I needed to buy my. So we were in Japan for 3 weeks and my phone was just dying every day. Luckily, for people who don't know and people who haven't been to Japan, it's the best country in the world for tech and like if you're running around doing
Sure.
tourism with an iPhone or anything, they've got these things in like they've got the 7-Elevens and the Family Marts, right? The convenience stores there, and every single one has got these battery pack things and you download the app, you scan the QR code with your camera, the thing pops out and you take it and it's got three different cables. So it doesn't matter what type of phone you have, it'll work for it. And you can just take the battery pack and go. And you can go into any other convenience store.
Yeah.
Every single one has got these things, and there's a couple. It's like a rent a bike or something like that. So you can go out, you can go across town, you can go to a different city. You could get the Shinkansen, go to a different city, and just pop it back in, and it's like done. And it it costs
Brilliant.
because yen are so cheap as well. You've had it,
Yeah.
where did we have it? We went to go see um why am I'm thinking Mount Olympus now. What is the famous mountain in Japan?
Fuji.
Yeah, we went to see Fuji. We had them the whole day, put them back in afterwards because my phone was just constantly dying because I had a 5 or 6 year old iPhone. At the end, it cost us like £6 for a full day's charge. It was an amazing
Wow.
time. Yeah,
I heard that the 7-Elevens there are a whole different animal
completely
than the
different.
7-Elevens in the States. A 7-Eleven is a basic
Yeah,
convenience store,
yeah.
but in
It's
Japan, it's a
the same,
proper
but it's much nicer.
experience.
Oh my God, it's such a beautiful country. So glad we
Yeah,
went. And now I'm like, no, I
yeah,
just all I want to do is, I mean, I want to travel and see more places. I desperately want to go see Egypt and things like that. But I
yeah,
do just and sailing. We were talking about sailing a little bit a
yeah.
couple of days ago. A big fan of sailing, and I want to come down and do
I
the
love it.
Strait of Gibraltar if I can. But Japan is just such a gorgeous country, and it's so massive
Yeah,
as well. We were there for 3 weeks, and we saw the major cities, but we there's so
brilliant.
much we didn't see. You know,
That's brilliant.
yeah.
I can't wait to go. Excuse me. Um, I grew up doing martial arts, and I had one chance to do a tournament in Japan and
Mm,
didn't go.
mm,
I've never been. I can't wait to go. I sailing though, love it. My
mm,
dream is like a 42-foot swan.
mhm.
Gorgeous,
Mm, mm,
gorgeous. Just take time take time doing a sailing trip. That I would like.
mm,
That I would
mm.
like. If you go to Egypt, remember, thick skin,
Yeah.
going to the pyramids, visiting the pyramids is equally as amazing as you could hope it would be,
Hmm.
as well as equally being an awful experience.
Right.
And the reason it's an awful experience is for how I hate to say it like this, but the how the Egyptians. I know that they rely on tourism.
Mm,
I get it. I get it. That's their source of bread to put
mm,
bread on the table.
mm,
But bro, it's beyond third world. Like unless they figure out that they're so aggressive
mm,
and they're so annoying.
mm.
And I'm not here to take a camel ride on your kitsch little setup that you got going on. No offense,
Mm.
but no, I don't. I'm here to look at these things.
Yeah.
You know.
That's why it
But then,
astounds me that like they shut down research projects like the labyrinth, or they're kind of shutting down
well, I
something
have
right now with
theories
the
about that.
columns and
Yeah,
go
I
on.
have a theories about that. I think, look at Hawara, for example. When we
Yeah.
first went there, the thing that struck me
Mm,
right away, like
mm,
immediately, is the state of the place.
yeah.
The state of the place is so dilapidated
Mm,
that you instantly realize that this place has been pillaged
mm, mm,
for millennia,
mm,
um, let alone decades, millennia, centuries. And I think that part of it is control.
mhm,
You might have somebody like Zahi Hawass. He is always, I have discovered the latest, greatest thing on the planet.
mm,
I am
mm,
the greatest Egyptologist in the history of Egypt.
mm,
You
mm.
know,
I think that's every sentence that man has ever spoken, to be
ego,
perfectly
ego,
honest.
ego.
Yeah.
He's not particularly knowledgeable.
Mm,
There are very shady, I won't get into it here. There's shady stories I've heard
mm,
about certain individuals
sure.
um, who control certain basement levels of certain museums.
Right.
Um, and there's a whole market for certain artifacts.
Mm,
And I think that when you first visit Hawara, you realize that it's been in a complete state of
mm,
pillagery,
mm,
if that word exists, since the dawn of the dawn.
yeah.
And I think that opening the doors to more methodical, academic, honest research might shed light or might shed some light on some nefarious activities.
Sure. Mm,
And I think that's something they want to control.
mhm,
Um, yeah, yeah.
mm,
Like when you go out to Hawara as well, the one thing that you'll notice is it's guarded by a handful of sort of Bedouin guys with AK-47s
right.
who live out there. Um, why do you have guys with machine guns
Mm.
guarding this place, you know?
Makes it a little bit
Um,
difficult to go out there and do research. With
yeah,
an AK-47, that's pretty much as bad as it
it's
gets.
he's pretty fucking weird, man. But then you have really, nice guys. I got a buddy, Reda Abdel Halim, and he takes me to these different places out there. So if you're in good hands, you're good. I like the food.
Mm, mm,
I love Arabic food.
mm,
I love Egyptian food.
mm,
Um, you have to, like, right now I'm not, even though we do have Hawara as a project going on. There's a Belgian guy that worked on that project
mm,
there back in 2008, and he was halted.
mm,
Zahi halted his work out
mm,
there.
mm.
His name is Louis, and he ran into trouble with the whole.
Was
Every
he
time,
was he the one who was banned by Zahir
yeah,
was?
he was
Yeah.
banned
I know,
out
I know quite a few
there.
people have been stopped from going, yeah, into
Yeah, I'm in touch with him still. He lives in Andalusia, and we talk it now and again, and
mm,
we've had some long conversations about the difficulties of going there.
mm,
Um, he dedicated a lot of his time to that. How do I feel? Do I think it's like I said earlier, we have hundreds of projects in the pipeline.
mm,
Um, for me, what we're doing here right now is so fucking exciting.
mm,
There's
mm,
nothing compares to what we're doing here. The Bonhomme Richard,
mm,
wonderful.
mm,
Are we gonna run into people like Zahi Hawass in Yorkshire? No. The guys that we're doing the project with on the Bonhomme Richard are all really lovely chaps
mm,
and ladies and gentlemen, and they're fun and they're good salt of the earth
mm,
people.
mm,
Um, Hawara, do I think it's important? Of course.
mm,
Do I think am I involved in the project? Yes, I've got a whole documentary ready to rock and roll.
mm, mm,
Do I want to go? Would I like to see us go back and the various members of the team be able to pursue the project more? Yeah, I would
mm,
would I like to see Zahi chill a little bit and say, "Hey, Louis, go back and
mm,
continue."
mm.
Yeah, that'd be cool,
I'm hoping with all the pressure right now from so many different people and it's gaining more
Yeah,
and more attention, especially with those recent studies, hopefully
yeah.
enough push from the rest of
I
the
do.
world
I
will make that happen.
I don't mean to sound sort of gloom and doom.
No, no, no.
I feel that a good part of Hawara has probably already been pillaged.
Mm. Mm. Was
I
this the thing
mean,
with the water table as well, right? Is it's just slowly
yeah,
destroying
that's a
every
weird one.
single thing?
So
Yeah.
Napoleon comes in,
Mm.
amongst all these different people. The last few people that talked about Hawara, who had visited Hawara in more recent times,
Mm.
there were the Herodotus, obviously back in Greek period times, describes it extensively, saying it was grander than the Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah.
Um, he said, and then, there was a Jesuit priest
Mm.
who had made his way down there and described what he had seen.
Mm.
And then Napoleon, when they conquered Egypt, had this is a weird one. They say it was for irrigation of the. It's all cropland,
Mm-hmm.
and so he had told his engineer to build a canal. And he builds the canal that literally touches the pyramid.
Yeah.
And the pyramid is one of the entry points. You have this tunnel that goes in, and then you're faced with water.
Mm-hmm.
Why would Napoleon, seemingly purposely, flood this place? That's
Mm.
always quite interesting too.
Mm. Mm.
Um, the last descriptions of anybody actually going in and saying they saw things, because Flinders Petrie had done work there, and Flinders Petrie, known as the godfather of Egyptology,
Mm.
um, uh, said he had run into sort of a slabs, and he thought it was the floor.
Mm-hmm.
No, the floor, but other theories suggest that maybe it was actually the ceiling of a second story underneath the ground.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. But the most grandiose descriptions were that there were something like 3,000 chambers
Right.
with the walls covered in gold and writing and statues and this and that. And um, it's a really big place.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm sure there's stuff under there. But the funny thing is when you're approaching, you see what looks like amongst all these sort of fields of agriculture, you see what looks like you see the pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
it's falling apart, and you see what looks like a field of sand dunes, and they're not sand dunes. These
Mm.
are looters' holes,
Right.
dug over the centuries by looters.
Mm.
So I'm almost thinking about turning, if we do go forward and we will finish the project, but recently we're talking about, the documentaries that we do are generally linear in the sense of here's our investigation, here's our discoveries, here's the story, and it's very much chronologically based on how we've conducted our research.
Mm.
But in the case of Hawara, there's so many side plots, and
Mm-hmm.
pirates,
Mm.
and weird personalities and obscure things that have happened, and mysterious deaths of people that I've known that were associated with the project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I'm almost thinking we've had this concept of almost doing. I won't get into it too much because it's of doing so more of an Agatha Christie slash documentary style thing, because it's
Mm. Mm.
really I could go on, and I'll talk to you about that at another moment, but I could go on for hours about that project. Is a bizarre one.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre one.
Well, let's let's I'm curious to hear what are your other I think I know because I've seen some of your other videos. What are your other projects? What have you got coming up? What are you going to be releasing
So
video
right
wise?
now we have 7 active projects.
Yeah.
Now, when I say active, it means so we have hundreds. Merlin Barrows, we have hundreds of filed
Mm.
discoveries.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is we've done a certain amount of investigation up to the satellite phase,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets shelved.
Sure.
There's all sorts of projects. There's stuff from the Second World War,
Right.
and there's stuff from prehistory,
Mm.
and all stuff in Australia, stuff in Europe, everywhere, every
Mm.
kind of thing.
Mm.
And then when we decide, hey, that's ready to rock and roll, the second stage is actually making it active. So deciding we're actually going to start developing the project.
Mm.
Right now we have 7 in production. We got the Bonhomme Richard, Hawara. We've got Atlantica.
Mm.
Atlantica is going to go on for years. There's so much material, and every there's so much stuff there, stuff that connects to um, stuff that connects to Christopher Columbus,
Mm.
right? That's a whole new subject that you're
Mm.
gonna flip out when you hear that stuff. Christopher Columbus sailed out of here,
Mm.
the
Mm.
place where I live.
Mm.
There's no coincidence. I was recently, 2 weeks ago, was invited into the archives of the palace of the Dukes of Medina Sidonia. It's a whole
Mm.
different story.
Mm.
One of the oldest monastic families of Europe, and they have some of the oldest archives in Europe.
Mm.
And the maps and the texts in those archives are unbelievable in how
Right.
they relate back to Atlantis and transatlantic
So
commerce.
this is part of what you're talking about when you're saying that it's not necessarily accessible to the public, all this information.
Nobody goes in
Yeah.
there.
Right.
So for me to have, I'm friends with them. I've developed a friendship over the last decade, and
Mm.
also my wife
Mm.
happens to be friends with them, so that helps. And it's such an incredibly convoluted story. We've got shipwrecks.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple other projects in England which we already started filming.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, we did a big dig. About 30 archaeologists out there. The BBC was out there filming with us also
Mm-hmm.
on our dig um, a few years ago, several years ago now. But that's been put on pause. So not every project's quite the same.
Sure.
Some might not see the light of day.
Mm.
But I figure this: if we've got so far, we have the last count we had, I think it was just shy of 300 satellite discoveries.
Mm-hmm.
If out of those 300, I do 50,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's already a lot, you
Great.
know?
Great.
So, so yeah, that's where we are with that.
Great. Where can people find your work? Let them know about your website and
Okay, so we're in
socials and
distribution now. We
yeah.
have a fairly decent idea what platform it's going to come out on,
Great.
but I can't
No
quite.
spoilers. Yeah.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Great.
But right now, I know I get this question all the time. When's it coming out? When's it coming out? I promise soon. It's
Mm.
not. It's a process. It's
Mm.
a process.
I bet. Yeah.
But the first series is done. It's ready to rock and roll.
Great.
But with Atlantica, it's got to come out internationally. The
Mm.
whole world has to see it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
distribution for Atlantica is really important
Mm-hmm.
on a
Mm-hmm.
global level. Um, for now, just follow me on social media, and we've got the YouTube channel. We've got Michael Donnellan Atlantica, Instagram. We've got ingeniofilms.com, which is our website, which we try to keep updated. Facebook and TikTok and all of that. We have that. I've been trying to be fairly good about keeping
Tech
our
savvy in the world of TikTok and
yeah,
AI and everything. Yeah.
I'm not crazy about having to always, but you get to rhythm of putting up videos regularly,
Yeah.
and so I try to do that as well as I can. But yeah, you know,
Great. Great. I'm really looking forward to seeing it all. I'm excited to see
yeah,
those videos. I can't wait.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy. It's the links. I'll send those to you now.
Right.
And
Great.
listen. Once you've seen them,
Yeah.
I mean, this is already going on 3 hours, but once you've seen them, you might want to have a second follow-up call with me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We'll
Okay?
do that.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Yeah. Thank you, mate. This has been really good.
It's been an absolute pleasure, bro.
Cheers.
It's been an absolute pleasure. You're a gentleman and scholar, and I really enjoy talking to you and learning about your houseboat, your
You're
longboat.
welcome to come and see it at some point.
What a trip! I can't wait. I'll take you up on that. Anyway, thank you so much for having me.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
watch those videos and I imagine we'll be speaking soon.
Terrific.
Cheers.
Take care,
All
bro.
right. Have a good
Ciao,
one.
ciao, ciao.
All right. Bye.
Bye.